Chapter 1005. Swish, swish. Blood-colored sword light crisscrossed as Yi-chun, who was using derailment steps, shuttled through the crowd of demon kings like a ghost. With each step, a blood-colored sword light blossomed. The weaker demon kings were directly slashed into a blood mist, dying on the spot. The stronger demon kings were also cleaved into two, their cultivation base greatly damaged. Apart from Yi-chun, Void Ancestor, Prison Ancestor, Mysterious Queen, and Murong Qingcheng had also killed a lot of demon kings. Void Ancestor's Void Palm was several times more powerful than Void Emperor's. With a slap, a demon king in front of him immediately turned into ashes, leaving not a trace behind. Prison Ancestor's punishment martial skill was strange and tyrannical. With a swipe of his hand, the demon king charging at him could only let out a miserable shriek before being cut into pieces. As for Mysterious Queen, her snow-filling universe had already reached perfection. Extreme freezing chi erupted, freezing dozens of meters tall demon kings into ice sculptures. As her figure passed through, the ice sculptures shattered into millions of pieces, creating an icy rain. Murong Qingcheng, this rising star of a younger generation, wasn't much inferior to them. The demonic wings on her back provided her with a frightening mobility. Her figure flickered. One moment, she was still here, and the next, she was already in another place. The demon king, fighting her, didn't even know who the opponent was before his body exploded and he died. However, although there were many powerful kings on Elysium's side, there were even more powerful kings on the side of the demons. Not to mention the two demon emperors, the Troll Emperor and the Lord of Fear. There were more than 10 other demon kings comparable to heavenly evil demons. Just like the former two, they had been sealed in Elysium for a long time. Their true cultivation base was at the 6th layer of life and death realm. After being suppressed by 2 layers, they were at the 4th layer, which was equivalent to the 6-star battle strength of Elysium. Like a bulldozer, the 2 demon emperors and dozens of heavenly evil demon kings charged forward like a hot knife through butter. Wherever they went, the kings of Elysium were turned into blood mists, leaving not even their bones behind. Kill! The red-haired Chu Zhongtian seemed to have gone berserk. He didn't dodge or evade, and instead exchanged punches with the 2 demon kings in front of him. It was a battle of life for life. Eventually, relying on his unusual protective astral yuan and evil spirit body, he blew up the 2 demon kings. As for himself, half of his head had caved in, and a large chunk of flesh had been torn out of his chest. Duguju's situation was even worse than Chu Zhongtian's. His opponents were 3 demon kings, and one of them was not much weaker than him. Fighting 1 against 3, Duguju was pushed back again and again. The wounds on his body kept increasing, and his undying body didn't even have enough time to recover. Haha, Duguju, don't you die so early. A long spear suddenly stabbed out, nailing into a demon king's head. It was Bai Minghui. Although he was laughing, tears were streaming down his face. Just a second ago, his grandfather had been torn into pieces by 2 demon kings in order to save him. Before he died, he had even dragged another demon king down with him. Bai Minghui's anger had made him explode continuously. After killing the last demon king, he saw that Duguju was in danger, so he didn't care that he only had half of his body left. He rushed over and stabbed his spear through his opponent's head. Boom! With only half of his body left, he was simply too weak and was turned into a blood mist by a demon king who was passing by. You have to live. Kill these sons of bitches. Bai Minghui's voice disappeared. Duguju roared into the sky as blue veins popped out on his forehead like small snakes. The white hair on his head started to dance in the air as well. The anger and the extreme madness had pushed him to explode with even more potential. He combined with his blade and drilled into a demon king's chest before coming out from the back. Blood splashed everywhere. My life no longer belongs to me anymore. The pain on Duguju's face was hidden deep down, and all that was left was killing. The battle taking place in the sky left everyone on the ground in shock and grief. Too many of them had died. They had been the most respected existences in Elysium, the kings of men and the kings of demons. For Elysium, for their children and grandchildren, they had no complaints, and they had never retreated. Even if they died, they would drag their opponents down with them. The demon army surged forward like a tidal wave, boundless like a swarm of locusts. If 1,000 demon army and 500 Elysium kings were like two dark clouds colliding, then the charge of 2 million demon army and 1 million Elysium army was like two oceans colliding. The ground was shaking, the wind was howling, and lightning was flying everywhere. It was a scene of doomsday. Kill! The two sides quickly approached each other, and the army at the very front had already started fighting across the sky. The whistling force was like 10,000 arrows being shot at the same time, and it was also like a storm was approaching. Bang, 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 bang. Chi explosion sounds resounded in the sky as countless black dots fell down. Each black dot represented the loss of a life. At this moment, human lives were like grass. Finally, the two armies collided. Blood flowed like a river, and blood surged into the sky. Die! A huge lizard shadow appeared behind Tuabaku's back. It waved its tail, and a couple of demons were blown away. With a swipe of its claw, another couple of demons were dismembered. There were a lot of strangers fighting alongside him, but there were also a lot of people he was familiar with, such as the geniuses from the Hidden Dragon rank and the friends he had made over the years. Each of them had forgotten everything and only had the demons in their eyes. Besides the human race, the demi-demon race, the demi-beast race, and the demi-beast race had also joined the battle. They could all transform into human form, which was the benefit of the Blood Skyland's shape-shifting pellet. The pellet not only allowed them to transform into human form, but also gave them intelligence that was not inferior to humans, which made them willing to fight for the Elysium. Unfortunately, they were only a small part of the demi-beast race. There were even more demi-beasts scattered around the world. Apart from some of them with extremely high potential, most of them did not have enough intelligence. They only fought for their own territories and did not know what the Elysium was or what it meant when the nest was overturned. There would be no eggs left intact. Too weak, too weak. Even if we are being suppressed by the Elysium, one of us can still fight against 10 of them. A demon with demonic bloodline grabbed a human astral reaching realm warrior and bit him hard. Bastard! A couple of astral reaching realm warriors with red eyes rushed up, wanting to avenge their comrades. Overestimating yourselves. The demon threw out the dead body of the astral reaching realm warrior. Boom! The body exploded in the air, turning into countless blood arrows. A couple of astral reaching realm warriors who had rushed up were pierced by the blood arrows, dying on the spot. Shoo! All of a sudden, a beam of sword light pierced through the demon's forehead. It was Lung Xinghan who had attacked. His eyes were extremely cold. After killing the demon, he did not even look at it, as he went to look for another opponent. Xiao Xiao, don't be afraid. They're all bastards. What is there to be afraid of? After killing a demon, Yi Xian turned his head and said to Yi Xiao Xiao, who had a pale face, "Second brother, be careful." Just as Yi Xian turned around, a demon charged over, a huge axe attacking toward his head. Seeing that the axe was about to fall, Yi Xiao Xiao suddenly stomped on the ground with her feet, turning into a beam of light and shooting out. Dang! The axe was blown away, and Yi Xiao Xiao flew back with blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. Yi Xian, who had just reacted, shook his wrist, and countless sword flowers covered the opponent. The next second, this sneak-attacking demon fell down with blood all over his body. Good job! Yi Xian gave Yi Xiao Xiao a thumbs up, feeling a lingering fear. The battle had only been going on for a while, but Elysium had already lost nearly 100 life and death kings. The losses of the demons were also unexpectedly high, reaching more than 60. Many of them had been killed by the kings of Elysium. Yichen alone had killed more than a dozen demon kings. In such a chaotic scene, being powerful didn't mean that one could kill a lot of enemies. After all, as one attacked an enemy, there would be even more enemies attacking one. If not for Yi Chen's extremely powerful soul power, which allowed him to multitask, and if not for his quick reaction, which allowed him to dodge in time, he would have been injured by now. As time passed, the number of casualties started to decrease. The main reason was that the situation was not that chaotic anymore. Everyone was far away from each other, so they would not get involved. With a glance, Yi Chen noticed the Troll Emperor. His opponent was actually Murong Qingsheng, with the demon wings. Although Murong Qingsheng would not be captured immediately, she would still be in danger. "Leave him to me." His body shifting in the void, Yi Chen appeared in front of Murong Qingsheng and said, "All right." Murong Qingsheng also did not hesitate. With a flap of the demon wings, she instantly disappeared from her spot, courting death. Just as he was about to capture Murong Qingsheng, Yi Chen ruined his plan. The Troll Emperor roared. His fist seemed like it had been compressed by 10 huge mountains. With one punch, everything in the world flowed in reverse. Even spatial power could not bear this fist aura. Countless spatial fragments shot toward Yi Chen like multicolored streamers. Yi Chen shuttled through the multicolored streamers like a hot knife through butter. These streamers were shattered by a layer of golden light when they were just a meter away from Yi Chen. The golden light was emitting from the demon's slaughtering sword in Yi Chen's hand. Unknowingly, the sword had enlarged by several times, turning into a huge golden sword. The huge golden sword was unstoppable. Just the sword aura alone was enough to form a frightening golden light. Boom! The fist and the huge golden sword collided, and a huge black hole appeared between the two. The power spread to the depths of the void, like a volcanic eruption. Puff! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Yi Chen was sent flying. As expected, he has 7-star combat power. Yi Chen instantly judged his opponent's combat power. He actually managed to block it? Although the Troll Emperor did not spit out blood, he still took dozens of steps back. His fist felt numb. Yi Chen's sword had a strong vibrational power, making his right arm feel a little weak. His eyes were extremely sharp. Yi Chen knew that his opponent this time was not the same as before. If he did not use all his strength, it was very likely that he would die. It should be known that the sword just now was not an ordinary sword technique, but the third style of the vibrational sword art, the Sky Absolute Sword. Previously, the Sky Absolute Sword had only been integrated with the Profound of Earth. Now it had been perfectly integrated, becoming a top profound sword technique. Chapter 1006. Very good. I finally found an opponent who can barely fight me. Killing those ants is too boring. In a short period of time, the Troll Emperor had killed 15 kings of Elysium. If not for Murong Qingsheng attracting his attention, this number would have been much higher. To him, those who couldn't block one of his punches were ants. Although killing ants was easy, killing too many of them wouldn't satisfy him. If he wanted to kill a peerless figure like Yi Chen. Killing one Yi Chen was more useful than killing 10 or 20 ordinary kings. He might even be able to destroy the faith of the people of Elysium. Killing ants like demons is also very boring. After killing you, this war should end faster. Yi Chen's thoughts were the same as the Troll Emperor's. In a battlefield, the role of a general was extremely important. Not only was he the commander, but he was also the spiritual pillar of the soldiers. If the general died, the morale would definitely be greatly affected. Kill me? What a joke. I want to see how you will kill me. The Troll Emperor laughed loudly. His undying body was at the blood rebirth realm, and his magical power was boundless. Even if an ordinary person killed him 10 times, he would be able to recover again. Although his current strength hadn't recovered to the peak of the past, and was only at the early stage of 7-star, even a middle stage 7-star wouldn't be able to kill him. In fact, they would be tortured to death by him. Take my troll killing fist. While his laughter was still echoing, the Troll Emperor had already charged over and punched. The pitch-black fist filled the sky and rapidly enlarged in Yi Chen's eyes. I haven't figured out his strength yet. It's better not to use Instant of Glory for now. Instant of Glory was Yi Chen's greatest trump card. In the past 2 years, Yi Chen had made great progress in Instant of Glory. However, if he revealed his trump card in advance, it would only make his opponent vigilant. Either he didn't use Instant of Glory, or once he used it, he had to obtain sufficient results. After all, with his opponent's strength, Instant of Glory wouldn't be able to kill him instantly. Pop! His body lightly leaped up, and the demon's slaughtering sword in his hand slashed from bottom to top, left to right. This slash was like a dream. As the sword edge streaked across the sky, the space rippled like water. At the same time, the tip of the demon slaughtering sword suddenly lit up, creating a golden water ripple in the void. The water rippled and welcomed the pitch-black fist. The fourth move of the Autumn Water Sword technique, Autumn Water. Rumble. The power of the Troll Emperor's fist was unstoppable, but this water-like sword chi was not only flexible and condensed, but it was also indestructible. It gathered the essence of the metal and water attributes and effectively fused them together. On the pitch-black fist, countless golden splashes exploded, and each splash was not inferior to a cut of sword chi. While Yi Chun and the Troll Emperor were fighting, the others had also found their opponents. The Void Ancestor's opponent was another Demon Emperor-level character, the Lord of Fear. Although the Lord of Fear's strength was not as good as the Troll Emperor, he still had the battle power of a 6-star Overlord. The Void Ancestor fought with him for dozens of rounds, and was immediately beaten to the point of vomiting blood and being battered. Invincible Void Battle Technique. With a low roar, the aura of the Void Ancestor skyrocketed, as if he had eaten a great tonic. Secret Battle Technique? The Lord of Fear didn't think much of it. The opponent's strength was much lower than his. Even if he used a secret battle technique, it would be no more than a cornered beast struggle. Unless the opponent used a peak-level secret battle technique, only then could it pose a threat to the Lord of Fear. Clearly, peak-level secret battle techniques were not cabbages. Moreover, they were extremely difficult to cultivate. Out of 100 people, there might not even be one who could successfully cultivate it. As a 6-star king at the same level as the Void Ancestor, Jailer was fighting 2 4th-layer life and death realm demon kings, which were 6-star devils. It was not that he was being arrogant, but that he had no other choice. If he didn't hold up one more kings of Elysium would die. At that time, the gap in numbers would grow larger and larger, and he would no longer be facing 1 or 2 enemies, but 3, 5, or even 10. In fact, he wasn't the only one doing this. The others were doing the same. For example, Murong Qingsheng, relying on the flexibility of her demon wings, was holding up 3 6-star devils by herself, while Xianhou was holding up 2. Su Qing's strength was barely at the 6-star level, but he was also holding up a 6-star devil that was stronger than him. Even with his 6-step spirit body, he was still being beaten miserably, and could only rely on the space profound to continuously evade and counterattack. Even so, the 4 of them were only holding up 8 6-star devils. There were still a few that were still wantonly slaughtering. Nobody could stop them. Space Realm. At the crucial moment, the Air Emperor stood up and used his space profound to trap a 6-star devil. His battle strength was not much weaker than Su Qing's, so he could hold on for a while. But if the battle dragged on, he would die without a doubt. This was all thanks to his research on Space Profound, which focused on sealing and trapping. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to hold on for a while. I, Chu Zhongtian, will fight you. Seeing the number of life and death kings on his side decreasing rapidly, Chu Zhongtian roared and charged at a 6-star devil by himself. Courting death. This 6-star devil was an old demon with pitch-black scales all over his body. He had seen Chu Zhongtian's previous battle and knew that he was several times weaker than him. Rip! A right claw, flickering with a cold light, suddenly waved out. The old demons instantly broke through Chu Zhongtian's protective astral yuan and left a deep claw mark on his body. Too weak. A few ribs appeared in the old demon's hand, which belonged to Chu Zhongtian. Puff! Chu Zhongtian spurted out a huge amount of blood, along with pieces of his internal organs. Die! The old demon's body art was extremely fast. Like a ghost, he flickered around Chu Zhongtian's surroundings. Chu Zhongtian's attacks were all dodged by him. All of a sudden, a puff sound was heard as Chu Zhongtian's chest was pierced through. The old demon's 2-meter-long right arm pierced through Chu Zhongtian's back, holding a heart. If we die, let's die together. Chu Zhongtian tightly locked onto the old demon's arm as a dark red crystal light erupted from his body. It was a sign of self-detonation. It was unknown where he had learned this self-detonation secret art from. You die, but I won't die. The old demon's right arm suddenly shook, and countless bloody holes appeared on Chu Zhongtian's body. Blood splashed out, and the dark red crystal light flickered before disappearing. As for Chu Zhongtian's body, his flesh had been destroyed to the point that he couldn't even self-detonate. His Jun Yuan was in chaos. Swish! At this moment, a sharp sword pierced through the old demon's chest. The next moment, the old demon's exploded into a blood mist, and half of it was minced into nothingness. Looking at where the sword had come from, the source was actually Yichun. Yichen's direct opponent seemed to be the Troll Emperor alone, but in fact, he had been multitasking. While fighting with the Troll Emperor, he had been using the defensive sword art to attack the nearby Demon Kings. That sword just now was not the Earth Fiend sword art, but the 9 return to 1 sword art, which was even more exquisite than the Earth Fiend sword art. The 9 return to 1 sword art required the defensive sword art to reach the level of 81 swords at the same time, and the power of the 81 swords was concentrated on 1 sword. Although the Earth Fiend sword art could also reach this level after absorbing enough Earth Essence Evil Chi, it still needed time to accumulate. The 9 return to 1 sword art did not have this weakness. Of course, the main reason why the old demons could be heavily injured with 1 sword was because Chu Zhongtian had locked onto him in an instant. Otherwise, the old demons could have blocked a little, and his body would not have exploded. Leave the 6-star devil to me. Don't die so soon. Yi Chen's voice came from the flying sword. Thank you. The injuries on Chu Zhongtian's body had already healed. After swallowing a pill, he immediately flashed away from the place. Damn it! The blood mist gathered again as the old demon man opened his mouth and roared. This sword attack contained an extremely powerful destruction sword intent. He could feel that every bit of his flesh and blood was being destroyed by the destruction sword intent. Right now, his power had dropped by more than 30%, and half of his energy was used to expel the destruction sword intent. The sharp sword turned around and attacked the old demons again. Pung, pung, pung. The old demons, who had lost a lot of strength, was being attacked by the sharp sword. He dodged everywhere, but the sword marks on his body were still increasing, making him look like a bloody man. You dare to split your attention in front of me. The Troll Emperor's attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer. Any of his punches could kill a normal 6-star king. All of a sudden, the fist shadows were like mountains, whistling towards Yichun. Moment of glory. Yichun did not dare to be hit by so many fist shadows. With the opponent's strength, he could easily injure him in an instant. With the demon's slaying sword in hand, Yichun flew up and rushed toward the opponent. The next second, the tip of the demon slaying sword shone with a bright light. This light was like the moment when a star exploded, and everything was forcefully frozen. The Troll Emperor only had time to say 1 sentence before he could not move anymore. Right now, the moment of glory was not the same as before. Its range had reached hundreds of meters, and everything within that range was frozen. Even the fierce fist shadows were frozen in the air. Chi! The demon's slaying sword touched the center of the Troll Emperor's eyebrows, and after a slight resistance, it pierced through. Boom! A strong light exploded, and the Troll Emperor's head exploded into pieces. However, what made Yichen's heart heavy was that this sword had only destroyed the Troll Emperor's head, and it did not affect other parts of his body. This meant that the opponent's magic power and physical strength had reached an unimaginable level. Die! The Troll Emperor woke up a moment earlier than Yichun had expected. Although he did not have a head, his voice still came out, and his fist landed on Yichen's chest. Puff! His body shattered, and Yichen's entire body turned into a bloody mist that spread out in a fan shape. Yichun! Morong Qingsheng screamed. Yichun had not reached the realm of blood rebirth, and being turned into a bloody mist with one punch meant that he would definitely die. As if she had gone crazy, Murong Qingcheng rushed in that direction. But in that moment of distraction, the 3 6-star devil that she had entangled would attack her body together. In the distance, Xuanho's face was pale, without a trace of blood. Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng were facing a disaster at the same time. Was Elysium really going to fall? Chapter 1007. Yi Chun is dead. It was not only Xianho who had noticed this scene. Besides Xianho, the other life and death realm warriors who were battling with the demons seemed to have sensed something as well, looking over from afar. Although they were very far away, and logically speaking, the commotion here should not have caught their attention. But they still looked over. Using their soul power, they saw the Troll Emperor and the blood mist in front of the Troll Emperor. He is dead. What should we do? He is a peerless martial genius, a legend of this era. How can he die? Everyone was screaming in their minds. They were not afraid of sacrificing themselves, and they were not afraid of death. At the critical moment, they could die together with the demons. But they were afraid of not seeing hope, of not seeing the dawn of victory. China, Big Brother, Yi Tianhao, Shun Yuqing, and Yi Xian and Yi Xiaoxiao, who were battling, felt a pain in their hearts. It was as if they had lost something, as if the most important thing was leaving them. All of a sudden, a roar resounded through the sky. Yi Chun, I know you are not dead yet, and no one can kill you. Even if you are dead, you better come back to life. Otherwise, how can you step on my Duguju's head? You are a person destined to be glorious. Duguju's eyes shone with a horrifying light, and blue veins popped out on his face. With each blade attack, he would roar out. Each blade attack was heavier and fiercer than the previous one. His opponents, the two demons, were shocked. Duguju had reached his limit and broken it at the same time. They could barely handle the first blade attack, but the second one, they had no choice but to back out. The third one, their bodies started to be dyed with blood. It seemed like something had happened that had made him extremely angry. Am I dead? Is this all I can do? The murmuring voice reverberated in the surreal space. At first, it was very weak like the sound of wind. The Troll Emperor's pupils shrank. Using his soul power to sense, he was sure that every inch of Yi Chen's flesh and blood had been smashed by him, turning into a thin blood mist. Even that indestructible armor didn't have a single bit of flesh and blood, only blood. So where did this sound come from? I'm not dead yet. Even if I die, I will crawl out of hell and return to the human world. Immortal sword intent, rebuild my body. The weak voice became extremely powerful. In the end, it resonated with space. An undying and inextinguishable radiance blossomed, pervading the bloody mist. Hua! The blood mist gathered again, and a figure condensed. Great! Murong Qingcheng didn't die either. The 3 6-star demons' combined attacks seemed to be powerful, but in fact, they only used 30 to 40% of their power. The Troll Emperor had told them before that they could only injure Murong Qingcheng, but not kill her. Right now, seeing Yi Chen's figure appear, Murong Qingcheng smiled and cried. Not dead? Great! But this doesn't seem to be the blood rebirth state. Yi Chen's resurrection made Xianho feel relieved. But at the same time, she was confused. Although the method that Yi Chen used to condense his body was similar to the blood rebirth state, in her eyes, it was completely different. The blood rebirth state required the will of the blood to pull each other and quickly reassemble according to memory. Although there was will in Yi Chen's blood, it was not to the point of pulling each other. The reason why he could condense his body was because Yi Chen used his powerful immortal sword intent to force all the blood together. After all, these blood were all Yi Chen's. Once they were gathered together, they immediately sensed each other and automatically rearranged themselves. However, this was Yi Chen. Ordinary people who hadn't reached the blood rebirth state would not be able to be reborn even if someone helped them to condense their blood, because their core will had already dissipated and the fragmented will was not strong enough. I knew you wouldn't die. Only like this is you. Duguju laughed loudly, his white hair fluttering in the wind. I have to say, you just completed a miracle. Although I have heard of such things, I have never seen it. You have broadened my horizons. The Troll Emperor recovered from the shock and said coldly, Hell didn't accept me, so I had to come back. I have to thank you for that punch. I seem to have gained some understanding of the blood rebirth state. Reaching the blood rebirth state was not something that could be done in a day. No matter how talented one was, it was impossible to reach it in a few years. Although Yi Chun was at the peak of the flesh derivation state before, it would take him at least 2 or 3 years to successfully break through. Now, he had a feeling that every cell in his body had condensed enough will. Although these were not as strong as the core will, they were still at the 3rd or 4th level. Don't thank me so early. You will still die soon. The dead don't need to thank the living. The Troll Emperor didn't think that the resurrected Yi Chun could do anything. If he could kill Yi Chun once, he could do it again. As for the Troll Emperor, it wouldn't matter even if he was killed 10 times. Is that so? Then let's wait and see. As he spoke, Yi Chun sent a voice transmission to Murong Qingsheng. It seems that you don't have enough confidence in me. Fight with all your heart. Don't worry about me. Even if I die 10 times, I won't die so easily. Got it. Murong Qingsheng was in a very good mood. The moment Yi Chun died, she felt like she had died too. Now that Yi Chun came back to life, every inch of her body was cheering and excited. A new power rose in her body, and the previous heavy injuries disappeared. Not good. She has completely activated the Dark Witch bloodline. The 3 6-star devils opposite Murong Qingsheng smiled bitterly. The Dark Witch bloodline was an extremely noble bloodline among the demons. Once this bloodline was activated, the power it produced was unparalleled. Although this power couldn't be transformed into actual strength for a while, it would accompany her for the rest of her life. Moreover, it would produce an inexplicable pressure on the demons whose bloodline was lower than hers. Fortunately, the other party didn't just have the Dark Witch bloodline. There was also the human bloodline. If it was the real Dark Witch, they probably wouldn't have the courage to attack her. Let's start again. Yi Chen's eyes were as clear as the sky. This was the kind of eyes that understood life and death. Annoying eyes. The Troll Emperor shouted in a low voice. The surrounding space cracked inch by inch. His whole body turned into a black hurricane, sweeping toward Yi Chun. Wherever he went, the shadows of his fists filled the air. Boom! The sky shook. The two figures kept crossing each other. In an instant, they had exchanged more than 100 blows. Wait, his attack didn't increase. Why is he still unharmed? The more the Troll Emperor fought, the more he felt that something was wrong. Yi Chen's combat power was much weaker than his, but the other party could receive his attacks without a scratch. Is it willpower? Willpower protection? After exchanging more than 10 blows, the Troll Emperor finally understood. The other party had willpower protection. That willpower was immortal willpower. Most of his attacks will be neutralized. You guessed correctly. Yi Chen's voice echoed. Then let's see whether your willpower is stronger or my magic power is stronger. The Troll Emperor's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had decided that even if he had to pay a certain price, he would take care of the other. Otherwise, he really wouldn't know what level the latter could reach. It should be known that once the willpower protection reached an extremely obvious level, it meant that the willpower had reached the 8th step. There was a huge gap between the 8th and 7th step. Countless people had been stuck below the 8th step, and he was no exception. The Troll Emperor's guess was right. Yi Chen's immortal sword intent had indeed advanced from the peak of the 6th step to the early 7th step, which was equivalent to an ordinary 8th step sword intent. At the moment of life and death, the unwillingness in Yi Chen's heart had turned into the immortal power, allowing the immortal sword intent to surpass the destruction sword intent for the first time. After the advancement, the immortal sword intent wouldn't be much more powerful than the destruction sword intent in terms of offense. However, in terms of defense, it was unparalleled. He only needed to slightly activate the immortal sword spirit, and a layer of immortal sword intent would appear on the surface of his body. Without exaggeration, even if he didn't use his protective Zhen Yuan, no king below 6 stars would be able to injure him. Each inside had turned the situation around, but the other places were getting more and more difficult. The demon kings of the demons were twice as many as the kings of Elysium. Basically, each of the kings of Elysium was fighting one against two. In the short term, they might be able to hold on, but as time went on, some of the kings started to fall. Meanwhile, the demon kings of the demons who had killed their opponents would become a new source of strength, helping the other demon kings to kill their opponents. If this was considered the worst, then there was something even worse. The few six-star devils who had no opponents started to kill people like flies. Wherever they went, there would be kings falling without any suspense. If no one stopped them, then Elysium would fall sooner or later. After all, there was only one Yichun. Let's die together. Knowing that they were going to die, for sure, the kings of Elysium kept dying together with their enemies. However, the sad thing was that only 3 or 4 out of 10 times would succeed. I, Xiaozuan, am not willing to accept this. If there's a next life, I will definitely wash the demons with blood. There were already a couple of king warriors who had died, and now there was one more. Xiaozuan from the Surreal Martial School had been shattered into pieces by 2 demon kings. Su King was extremely sad. Yichun, this is my last sword attack. Please take a look. Lu Xiaoyu, who had just paid a huge price to kill his opponent, did not look sad or happy. His flesh and blood were evaporating as that endless power gathered into the great sword in his hand. Then, he threw out a sword attack toward the incoming 6-star devil. Swoosh! The treasured sword pierced through Lu Xiaoyu's body, but Lu Xiaoyu was also smashed into pieces, vanishing without a trace. You managed to break through my protective demon power? Unbelievable. This 6-star devil had killed quite a lot of king warriors of Elysium. That sword attack from Lu Xiaoyu had made him feel a huge threat. It was something that could not be explained at all, since the latter's battling power was only at the early stage of 5-star, and that sword attack was obviously 10 times more powerful than before. I saw it. At this moment, your sword art has surpassed mine. Yichun's heart was heavy. That sword attack from Lu Xiaoyu was burning his life force. Even if he was not killed by the 6-star devil, he would not be able to live for long. It was the last dedication of a sword artist and also his last contribution to the sword art. Chapter 1008. If the battles between king warriors could be described as brutal, then the battles between high-level warriors could only be described as human lives are like grass. Thousands of people were dying at every second. In just 1 hour, the number of casualties on both sides had already reached 200,000. Emperor Realm Shattering Fist. A huge amount of red and yellow fist power shot out, and all the demons caught in the fist power exploded and died. The one who had thrown out the fist power was none other than Jing Aoshuan. After Yichun and the group of people had all reached life in Death Realm, Jing Aoshuan, Li Xiaoyun, and the others had become invincible beings below life and Death Realm. Right now, Jing Aoshuan had already reached the peak of the 3rd layer of Life and Death Challenge, and her power was not much weaker than normal life and Death Realm warriors. She alone had killed almost 100 demons. This girl is too arrogant. Let's kill her together. Jing Aoshuan's power had attracted the attention of the powerful demons. Soon, 7 First Life and Death Realm demons had surrounded Jing Aoshuan. These 7 demons were actually at the same cultivation level as Jing Aoshuan, but because of the suppression of Elysium's rules, they had dropped to the 1st layer of Life and Death Challenge. Kill! The 7 demons joined hands to attack Jing Aoshuan. Chi flows spread out, blowing up sand and stones. After dozens of rounds, Jing Aoshuan killed 5 demons with her absolute power. However, she had also been hit by the remaining 2 demons, falling down to the ground. Demon Power Fist. The demons who were good at fist arts performed their demon's martial arts, throwing out a punch toward Jing Aoshuan's head. Who? Right at this moment, an invisible barrier blocked the punch. Not far away, 2 people appeared. One was Li Xiaoyun, and the other was his girlfriend, Serenity. Just now, it was indeed Serenity who had formed a protective layer with her mind power, saving Jing Aoshuan from death. Jing Aoshuan, don't be careless. As he spoke, Li Xiaoyun's figure flickered, and the iron fan in his hand turned into countless shadows. With a bang, the demons that had been chasing after Jing Aoshuan were torn into pieces. As for the other demons, Serenity's will all drilled into its head. Thanks a lot. Jing Aoshuan was panting heavily. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that she had consumed too much energy, the 7 devils wouldn't have been a threat to her. Li Xiaoyun sighed. We haven't killed enough. The demons are way more powerful than us in terms of average power and endurance. On the Elysium side, there seemed to be 1,000,000 troops, which was half of the demons, but their real power was probably less than 1/3 of the demons. Among the demons, the lowest cultivation was at mid-astral reaching realm, and it was still under the effect of being suppressed. On the other hand, among the Elysium warriors, the lowest cultivation was at early astral reaching realm. Perhaps the Elysium warriors could use the advantage of their martial arts to make up for the difference, but as time went on, everyone would start to get tired, and their Zhen Yuan would be consumed quite a bit as well. They would not be able to compete with the demons, whose life force was higher than theirs. Then let's keep killing. Slightly calming down, Jing Aoshuan's body flashed, flying toward the place with the most demons. UXN, perhaps we will die, but at the last moment of our lives, I'm already satisfied to have you with me. Li Xiaoyun looked at Serenity with deep emotion. Serenity touched Li Xiaoyun's face. Me too. During the battle with the demons, Serenity was a bit absent-minded. She kept turning her head to look at the sky, thinking to herself, why are they not here yet? Hurry up. Sword Snake spell, Sword Dragon spell, Big Dipper 7-star spell. On the battlefield, there was a group of people that attracted a lot of attention. They were the people of the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School. Individually, they might not be that powerful, but they could set up a sword spell and kill their enemies with it. Among them, the Sword Snake spell required 33 people to set up, the Sword Dragon spell required 42 people, and the most powerful Big Dipper 7-star spell required 49 people. At first glance, there were more than 10 Sword Snake spells, 7 Sword Dragon spells, and 2 Big Dipper 7-star spell. With the sword spell, they could usually fight against 2 or 3 demons at once. No matter how many demons there were, they would all be shattered by the power of the spell. They were invincible and unstoppable. Even some of the first-level life and death challenge demons had died under the Big Dipper 7-star spell. What a powerful sword spell! With this spell, the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School's name will spread across the world and become a #1 sword martial school. A lot of the surrounding warriors had a whole new level of respect for the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School. In the past, although the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School was famous, it was only because of Yichun. Yichun alone could make up for an entire martial school. Without Yichun, the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School would only be a normal rank 6 martial school. But now, with the sword spell, even if Yichun was not there, the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School would still be a top rank 6 martial school. This should be the sword spell created by the Sword King Yichun, right? Only he could be this talented and bring the sword art to a new height. It is not just limited to sword arts. Some people guessed. Chen Er's sword spell is indeed useful. Within one of the Big Dipper 7-star spell, the warriors who had set it up were all at the Sea of Souls realm, with Yi Tianhao as the eye of the spell. Right then, Yi Tianhao said to Shun Yuqing with a smile. Unfortunately, the more powerful 8-trigram extermination sword spell could not be set up. Shun Yuqing's brows were constantly furrowed. Their side had always been successful, but a lot of people had died in other places. The Fallen Dust Sword Martial School had also lost 3 Sword Snake spells and 1 Sword Dragon spell. 8-trigram extermination sword spell, even with Chen Er's explanation, is still too profound. Yi Tianhao sighed at the fact that the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School's foundation was still too shallow. If they were given another 10 years, the overall power of the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School would definitely double. If it were 100 years, the power of the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School might even increase by 10 times. 42. 43. Although Zhang Haoren was a member of the Fallen Dust Sword Martial School, his path had already been decided. Therefore, he did not train in sword arts, and only used his bare hands to kill the demons. "Lynch, how many have you killed?" From far away, Zhang Haoran's voice came to Lynch's ears. 50. After splitting the bodies of the 3 demons, Lynch continued. "Now it's 53. Damn, looks like I have to work harder." Zhang Haoran's fighting spirit did not decrease. Instead, it increased. He and Lynch were not purely competing. Instead, they were using the competition to make themselves forget about fatigue. Jie. After killing Lu Xiaoyu, the 6-star devil was invincible. Even the sky-splitting spear emperor and the mountain sovereign could not stop him. In just a short while, he was killed on the spot. At this point, there were only about 200 kings left in Elysium, while the demons still had more than 700 demon kings. The gap had widened to 3 times. On the other side, a sharp sword pierced through the air. The 6-star demons finally could not regenerate anymore and died. "He's finally dead." Yi Chun, who was fighting with the Troll Emperor, heaved a sigh of relief. Previously, he was about to kill the old demons, but at the crucial moment, the Troll Emperor destroyed his body with a punch, allowing the old demons to escape. After recovering, Yi Chun continued to use the 9-in-1 swordsmanship to chase after the old demons. No matter how far the old demons ran, he could not get rid of him. Even if you kill 1 or 2 more, what's the use? The Troll Emperor's attacks were like a thunderstorm. During this period, he did not forget to use words to attack Yi Chun's confidence. "At least we haven't lost yet." Yi Chun tried his best to block the Troll Emperor's attacks. Then you can only watch as everyone dies. The Troll Emperor's eyes were cold. To be honest, the fact that Elysium could fight until now was more or less out of his expectation. However, since it had reached this point, there was no need to think about anything else. The demons still had more than 700 demon kings, which was enough to crush the kings of Elysium. Are we really going to die? Yi Chun could not help but glance in the direction of the dragon god, Celestial Palace. If senior sister Su Jing did not come now, then when would she come? In the endless void, there was a spherical space. Roar! A sonorous dragon roar burst out, and the surging space power in the void seemed to have condensed. In the next moment, a golden figure flew out of the spherical space, as fast as a golden light. "Junior Brother Yi, I'm here." Wearing a golden robe and a head full of soft long hair, Su Jing's eyes were golden, and her face was smooth and flawless. A faint golden halo could be seen amidst her pure white skin. Her entire body was filled with a frightening power that caused the void to tremble. Anyone standing in front of her would feel very small. Swish! With a flash of golden light, Su Jing disappeared without a trace. The ocean gazing was a mess. Black shadows were clashing with each other like tides, leaving behind endless blood and wreckage. The entire true spirit continent could feel and hear the bitter aura. Vaguely, everyone on the battlefield seemed to hear the roar of a dragon. They did not think much of it, thinking that it was an illusion. After fighting for so long, they were already extremely tired. Hallucinating was very normal. Dying in illusion was also a good thing. At least, it would not be so painful. Roar! The dragon roar, which was 10 times louder than before, continued. No, it's not an illusion. It's a real dragon roar. Many transformed demonic beasts felt their knees go soft. This was the instinctive reaction of a lower being facing a higher being. Rumble. Endless golden light exploded, and the entire sky seemed to have turned golden. Amidst the blood clouds condensed from blood chi, a huge golden figure of unknown length was swimming at high speed. It seemed slow, but it was actually extremely fast. Wherever it went, the blood clouds were dispersed. By the time the sky cleared up, that huge figure had already disappeared. That's a divine dragon. Some transformed demonic beasts' faces shone with a devout light. Even a divine dragon had come to participate in the battle. Why would they be afraid of death? On the ocean near the ocean gazing, the kings were fighting unceasingly. Basically, each king of Elysium had to face 3 demon kings. I can die without regrets. A smile appeared on Yin Fengfeng's face. Up until now, she had already killed 6 demon kings. Her body ignited with a blue flame, and she was about to meet her death. Bang! A few thousand li-long dragon with pure golden light all over its body swam over. Its speed was indescribable. By the time Yin Fengfeng came back to her senses, the 4 demon kings around her had already disappeared, as if they had never existed in the first place. This kind of scene happened frequently. Everyone could see a huge dragon shuttling between them. In a short period of time, dozens of demon kings had died under the dragon's attack. They did not know how powerful the dragon was, but they knew that in terms of group-killing ability, even Yi Chun and the Troll Emperor could not compare. Just that several thousand li-long body of hers could scare people silly. Chapter 1009. This is a giant dragon. Void Ancestor and Jailer's eyes went wide. They had also heard of the legends of giant dragons. Since ancient times, although there weren't many who had seen a giant dragon, there were many records regarding them. According to the legends, once a giant dragon matured, it would become a demonic king. Even the weakest among them would be 10 times stronger than life and death kings of the same realm. Their strength could knock down stars, and their claws were comparable to divine weapons. Their scales were equivalent to supreme great armors. Their dragon breath had the power to destroy everything, and their dragon might could even slow down the enemy's movements. The weak ones couldn't even move. Giant dragons were creatures at the apex of the chain of life. In Elysium's legends, only phoenixes that could rise from the ashes could compare to giant dragons. But in terms of strength, phoenixes were inferior to giant dragons. Void Ancestor and Jailer had never imagined that Elysium would have a living giant dragon. Moreover, this giant dragon had clearly reached the demonic king realm. Finally here, Xianhou felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Although Su Jing's arrival didn't mean that they could turn defeat into victory, they had at least gained a powerful new force. Relying on a woman's intuition, Murong Qingqing vaguely guessed that this giant dragon that had suddenly appeared was Su Jing, whom she had never met before. She was Yi Chen's senior sister in Sky Cloud sect. Giant golden dragon, what a strange identity. Murong Qingsheng retracted her gaze, no longer being distracted. Haha, the giant golden dragon is on our side. There's hope for this war. With Yi Chun and the giant golden dragon, victory will be ours. Su Jing's addition greatly boosted the morale of Elysium's side. Everyone seemed to have been injected with chicken blood, becoming incomparably vigorous. Many of them even broke through their limits and advanced a step further. Senior sister Su Jing, you are finally here. Yi Chun smacked his lips as he looked at the golden dragon that was thousands of miles long. He had never imagined that a true dragon would be so huge. Back in the dragon transformation pool, Su Jing was only a dozen meters long. But now, a single eye of hers was the size of a mountain. Junior brother Yi, I didn't expect the situation here to be so bad. If I had known, I would have left the dragon transformation pool earlier. Su Jing's voice rang out in Yi Chen's mind. Sharpening the axe will not delay the work of cutting firewood. It's not too late to come now. I'll leave the 6-star devil to you. Once you kill them, our chances of winning will increase by 10 to 20%. Now is not the time for nonsense. Yi Chen continued. All right. Su Jing's huge body swam around, and she charged toward the nearest 6-star demon king. Along the way, she got rid of a dozen demon kings who couldn't dodge in time. I don't care if you are a dragon or not. Take my spear. The 6-star devil that was closest to Su Jing was 3 meters tall and had a dozen bone spikes on his back. When he saw the golden dragon swimming towards him, he was shocked at first. Then, a ferocious expression appeared on his face. This ferocious expression was too deliberate. It gave people a feeling that he was strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. It was obvious that he was frightened by the identity of the golden dragon. Poof! Bang! The dark light of the spear cut through the sky and pierced through the dragon scales on the golden dragon's body. Immediately, golden blood spurted out from the wound like a golden river. At the same time, the golden dragon's claws sent the other party flying. He spat out 7 or 8 mouthfuls of blood, and his body was almost destroyed. Ah, The so-called golden dragon is just SOSO. Although he was more seriously injured, the six-star devil laughed out loud. The defense of the golden dragon's dragon scales wasn't as high as he had imagined. It couldn't reach the level of a top-grade defensive armor. Is that so? Golden blood spurted out like a river, but Su Jing didn't care about it all. This bit of blood was only a drop in the ocean to her body that was several thousand kilometers long, and it wasn't worth mentioning. But one couldn't help but notice that this huge body was indeed invincible when dealing with weak demon kings. But it was a bit of a hindrance when dealing with a six-star demon king. It wasn't that agile when dodging, and she was completely a live target. Then let's become smaller. The golden light condensed, and Su Jing's body shrank rapidly. From thousands of miles long, she was only a few dozen meters long. The dragon scales that were as big as a lake had shrunk to the size of a bowl. Although her body had shrunk, the light that she emitted was even more intense. It was like a golden flame. Kill! With a flash of black light, the devil stabbed with his spear again. Ding! The result was completely different from the last time. The dark spear only left a shallow mark on the dragon scales. It couldn't break through the defense at all. It seemed that the smaller the body, the higher the defense of the dragon scales. Impossible! As if he didn't believe that he couldn't break through the opponent's defense, the devil exerted all his strength and stabbed with his spear again. The sharp spear light was like a cutting machine, cutting through the golden dragon scales. But the result was the same. He still couldn't break through the defense. Now it's my turn. Opening her dragon mouth, Su Jing spat out a ball of dazzling golden light at the devil. Boom! The intense light exploded and more than half of the devil's body was vaporized. At the crucial moment, the devil's spear sliced through the golden light and was only hit by half of it. Too strong. Run. Su Jing's strength caused fear to rise in the devil's heart. Her defense was comparable to a peak-grade, low-grade armor, and her offense far surpassed his. How could he fight against her? You think you can escape? After shrinking, although Su Jing's speed had decreased, she was still terrifyingly fast. In just a few breaths, she caught up to the devil and lashed out with her tail. Pung! The speed of the tail was too fast. The devil was forcefully smashed apart, turning into a blood mist. Regather my body! A furious roar rang out as the blood mist condensed. How could Su Jing give her opponent the chance to condense a physical body? She opened her dragon mouth, and a dazzling light wave rushed into the blood mist. With a rumbling sound, all the blood mist evaporated as if it had never existed. Too strong. This is the might of a giant dragon. Many devil kings were shocked. In the records, giant dragons had no weaknesses. When they were large, they could destroy an entire continent. When they were small, the defense of their dragon scales would reach the limit, comparable to a peak-grade defensive armor. Other than that, the giant dragon's dragon breath was extremely destructive. Those weaker than the giant dragon might be instantly killed by the dragon breath. As expected of a giant dragon, Yichen saw all this and was inwardly shocked by the giant dragon's destructive power. The troll emperor frowned and sent a soul message to the other devil kings. Don't be scared by her destructive power. Her true combat power is only at the peak of 6-star. Surround her and kill her. The troll emperor's eyes were sharp. Although Su Jing had easily killed a 6-star devil, it didn't mean that she was so powerful. The giant dragon's strength lay in its overwhelming power. Anyone weaker than her would be easily killed. In other words, a king whose strength was higher than the giant dragon might not be as fast as the giant dragon when killing weaker kings. However, if they were to fight against the giant dragon would definitely not be its opponent. Yeah, even if her defense is comparable to a peak-grade armor, so what? As long as we attack together, even a peak-grade armor will be broken. After all, the Troll Emperor was a demon emperor. What he said definitely made sense. After receiving the order, the Devil Kings gathered in groups of 2s and 3s. There were more than 30 of them. The 2 Devil Kings in the lead were 6-star devils. Before, their hands were stained with the blood of many kings of Elysium. Now, they planned to stain their hands with the dragon's blood. Kill! Without any words, the 30 Devil Kings attacked Su Jing together. Violent air currents crisscrossed and shrouded the tens of meters-long body of the giant dragon. Unable to dodge all the attacks, sparks flew on Su Jing's body. From time to time, golden blood droplets would splatter out. This was a sign of a dragon's scales being broken. If one hammer couldn't smash a rock, one more hammer might shatter the rock. With 30 Devil Kings attacking together, even the Troll Emperor and Yi Chun would have to retreat. They could only resort to guerrilla warfare or simply escape. Although the giant dragon was a creature with no weaknesses, it couldn't withstand a group of Devil Kings. If you want to fight, I'll keep you company. A strong fighting spirit burst out from Su Jing's eyes. Her dragon body actually started to expand, reaching the length of thousands of miles. Then, ignoring the attacks of the other party, she clawed at one of the Devil Kings. This Devil King's strength was only around 4-star. He was grabbed by the dragon claw. The two dragon fingers were like mountains, easily crushing him into pieces. However, there were also countless wounds on Su Jing's body. Some of the wounds were thousands of meters long. Pale golden blood spurted out, like the water of the heavenly river flowing backward. Next, Su Jing's eyes were cold and emotionless. The reason why she enlarged her body was to exchange injuries with the other party. Compared to before, although the defense of the dragon scales was weaker, the huge dragon body covered up this weakness. She could use light injuries to exchange for the lives of 30 Devil Kings. Poof! Another Devil King was crushed to death. Let's see how long you can last. A 6-star Demon King found an opportunity and threw a light ball of magical power that had been compressed countless times into the wound of the giant dragon. Rumble! The magic light ball exploded inside. The destructive power was dozens of times stronger than before. The wound that was originally thousands of meters long expanded to dozens of miles. Even the dragon's bones could be seen. 9th, 10th. Su Jing didn't seem to feel any pain. A golden dragon breath was spewed out, and several Devil Kings were vaporized into nothingness. At this moment, the Troll Emperor sent a voice transmission to some Devil Kings, another 30. Hearing this, 30 Devil Kings rushed over. Not good. Yi Chen's expression changed. The power of the giant dragon had no weaknesses. She could indeed fight against many as long as there weren't demons stronger than her. However, if 50 Devil Kings joined forces, Su Jing might really be killed. The giant dragon's body was huge. Although it could reduce serious injuries to minor injuries, it also meant that she would become a live target. Senior Sister Su Jing, come over here. Yi Chen hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Su Jing. Su Jing didn't doubt him. Her huge body endured countless attacks and slithered toward Yi Chen, spraying countless amounts of golden dragon blood along the way. Chapter 10:10. The Wolf King, come out. Yi Chen abruptly patted the beast tag hanging on his waist. A woo! A wolf howl was heard, and a scarlet-haired demonic wolf with eyes on its forehead scuttled out. The current dream-eating wolf was a demonic king, and its demonic power was incomparably vigorous, even more majestic than Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan. After devouring a supreme grade demonic power crystal, the dream-eating wolf's demonic power cultivation base had long since surpassed 20,000 years. After all, once a demonic beast entered life and death realm, its cultivation base would far surpass that of a human, not to mention a demonic beast like the dream-eating wolf, which had already gone extinct in Elysium. Of course, this was also related to the dream-eating wolf's powerful soul and proficiency in dreamland power. Otherwise, its cultivation base wouldn't have increased so quickly. Grow bigger. Yi Chun ordered the dream-eating wolf. Yes, the dream-eating wolf spoke human language, and its body rapidly grew as if it was filled with air, reaching dozens of li in height and 100 li in length. This was not the true body of the dream-eating wolf, as its real body was not this big. However, after reaching life and death realm, both demonic beasts and humans could grow bigger. For example, Yi Chen could also grow bigger. Although it was impossible for him to reach thousands of li like Su Jing, it was still possible for him to grow to dozens of li. However, Such growth required a vigorous cultivation base. With Yi Qin's cultivation base, his Zhen Yuan would be diluted if he grew to dozens of li, and he wouldn't be able to display its original might. The dream-eating wolf's cultivation base had already surpassed 20,000 years. At such a huge size, its strength would drop by at least 30%, but its attack range would increase by countless folds. Without Yi Qin's command, the pond-sized eyes on the dream-eating wolf's forehead opened, and a boundless dim light spread out towards Su Jing's direction. In a split second, the 50 demon kings chasing Su Jing were all shrouded by the dim light. In the next moment, apart from a few with powerful wills, the rest of the 50 demon kings' eyes turned sluggish as they fell into a dreamland. Senior sister Su Jing, quickly kill them. Yi Qin made a prompt decision. Su Jing's eyes brightened as she turned her body and swooped back. Not good. Giant Devil Emperor finally understood Yi Qin's plan. He didn't expect that Yi Qin had also subdued a Beast Wolf King proficient in Dreamland abilities. This kind of Dreamland ability might not be very powerful in battle, but its auxiliary effects were incomparable. It was a great killing weapon in group battles. As long as one's was not up to par, they would fall into Dreamland and be unable to extricate themselves. By the time they woke up, it would be too late. Roar! The Troll Emperor roared, and his 5-meter-tall body expanded, turning into a 100-mile-tall super troll. Compared to the Troll Emperor, Su Jing's dragon body was longer, but it wasn't as thick as the Troll Emperor's. It was just like a slightly larger python. Get lost! The pitch-black fist was dozens of miles wide, and it filled the heavens and earth. It sent Yi Qin flying. The Troll Emperor took a step forward, ignoring the distance of hundreds of thousands of miles, and chased after Su Jing. Unfortunately, he was one step too slow, and Su Jing's speed wasn't any slower than his. In an instant, more than 30 demon kings were smashed to pieces. Su Jing's huge dragon body was invincible in group battles. The demon kings that were hit by her were like praying mantises under a wheel, easily crushed to death. Soon, the Troll Emperor caught up with Su Jing, grabbed Su Jing's dragon body, and tore it apart. A soul-stirring scene happened. Su Jing's 1,000-mile-long dragon body was torn in two, and a river of dragon blood gushed out, sprinkling on the Troll Emperor's body. Merciless water and fire. With the protection of the immortal sword intent, Yi Qin was unharmed. Seeing Su Jing's dragon body being torn apart, a burning killing intent flashed in his eyes. Raising the demon's slaughtering sword high, Yi Qin gathered his Zhen Yuan and slashed at the Troll Emperor from afar. Among all of Yi Qin's sword techniques, the merciless water and fire had the longest range. Even if you were at the edge of the sky, you would still be cut down by the sword. The green sword curtain was hundreds of thousands of miles long, and with a flash, the Troll Emperor was split in two. The destructive sword light evaporated a lot of the Troll Emperor's demonic power. Whoosh! Taking advantage of this opportunity, Su Jing's dragon body quickly shrunk, becoming hundreds of meters long. Like a small earthworm on a giant palm, it broke free from the Troll Emperor's control and then connected together. This demon's demonic power is many times denser than my dragon power. To kill him, even if all of us join hands, we might not be able to do it. With a flash of golden light, Su Jing appeared next to Yi Qin, a trace of worry on her face. The Troll Emperor's demonic power was too terrifying. She was a golden dragon, and the reason why she could become thousands of miles long was because of the dragon's unique ability, not because she had that much dragon power. Therefore, once she became too big, her strength would drop a lot. However, the Troll Emperor had become hundreds of miles tall, but his strength did not drop much. It could be seen that the opponent's demonic power had reached an uncontrollable level. Among humans, the only one who can compete with him in terms of cultivation base is probably Senior Yuan Emperor. Yi Qin had a deep understanding of this point. After fighting for such a long time, the opponent's demonic power was estimated to be less than 1%. If this continued, he would die without a doubt, unless he was like Senior Yuan Emperor, who was born with a Dharma body and endless Zhen Yuan. The Wolf King, How many times can you use your Dreamland ability? The Dream-Eating Wolf's title was the Wolf King. As Yichin's trump card, Yichin only released it now because he had his own plans. The Wolf King's Dreamland ability was indeed very powerful, but consumed too much demonic power and soul power. Demonic power was fine, but soul power was something that everyone lacked. The Wolf King spoke human language. It depends on the situation. Under normal circumstances, I can use it about 3 times. If it's like just now, expanding the range to the extreme, I can only use it once. After that, I will only have a trace of soul power left, and I will even lose basic combat power. I will need to sleep for a long time to recover completely. Only once? Yi Chun frowned. If the Dream-Eating Wolf's ability was used well, it could greatly reduce the gap between him and the enemy. If it was not used well, it would only be a waste of opportunity. It seems like I can only give it a try. Turning his head, Yi Chun said to Su Jing and the Wolf King, I will hold off the Troll Emperor. You two don't separate. I will let the others gather with you. Then Yichin spread his soul power to the dozens of Elysium kings nearby. Everyone, gather around the Wolf King. Also, you guys send a soul message. Yichin's soul power had a limited range. Some kings had already fought millions of miles away, so soul messages couldn't reach them. He could only send them one by one. Gather over there. What's going on? Although they didn't know what Yi Chun was planning, everyone was exhausted. 1 against 3 wasn't a joke. Although their undying bodies could let them hold on for a while, they would still die after a long time. After all, in the past, they could choose to escape if they couldn't beat their opponents. But now, if they tried to escape, it would be the same as running away. Therefore, when they heard Yi Chun telling them to go over, they all became spirited. While sending a soul message to the others, they quickly ran away. Chase. They were so close to killing their opponents. How could these demon kings let them escape? They chased after them crazily. Space Tunnel. It was not easy for the Air Emperor to keep a 6-star devil occupied for so long with the strength of a 5-star tyrant. Seeing that the world of space was about to collapse, he waved his right hand, and a tunnel made of space energy appeared behind him. Entering the tunnel, the Air Emperor appeared near the Wolf King and Su Jing. Brilliance of Realm. Xuanho's space profound martial arts were more profound than the Air Emperor's. A mirror appeared in front of her, and Xuanho's figure was reflected in it. In the next moment, her body disappeared and appeared in the mirror. The mirror shot out a 5-colored light beam, sending Xianho far away. PFFF. The Void Ancestor had been beaten up by the Lord of Fear to the point where he didn't even look human. At this moment, he was at the end of his rope. Without thinking, his body started to turn ethereal, and he used a void escape art to escape in the direction of the Wolf King. Don't even think about escaping. The Lord of Fear was a bit angry. His strength was much higher than his opponent, and it was already very humiliating for him to not be able to take down his opponent. How could he watch him escape? I have fear. The Lord of Fear's forehead split open, and a black eyeball floated out. With a poof, a black brilliance shot out and accurately hit the Void Ancestor's ethereal body. Half of his body collapsed, and the Void Ancestor screamed. Fortunately, he forcefully changed his trajectory, and he wasn't completely annihilated. Don't even think about it. How could the Troll Emperor not know what Yi Chun was planning? His body instantly turned from hundreds of miles tall to hundreds of miles tall, and he punched out. Behind him, another Troll Emperor actually appeared, and it charged toward the Wolf King and Su Jing. I'm afraid it won't go as you wish. A sharp sword appeared out of nowhere, and it blocked the Troll Emperor's clone. Meanwhile, Yi Chin's sword faced the Troll Emperor's main body, and the two sides started fighting again. Gradually, one after another, the kings of Elysium gathered together. The number went from dozens to more than 100, and there were still some people rushing over. I'll make a move first. Murong Qingsheng single-handedly entangled the 3 6-star devils, and it played a huge role. However, her strength was only at the mid-stage of the 6-star devils, after all. To be able to entangle the opponents, she had to rely on the mobility provided by the devil wings. With a violent flap of the devil wings, Murong Qingsheng turned into a black dot, and she disappeared into the distance. In the end, the number of kings that gathered around the Wolf King reached about 200. This was basically the only kings left. Opposite them, the demons had also gathered together. There were about 600 of them, which was more than 3 times their number. Leading them was the Lord of Fear and 10 six-star devils. As for the Troll Emperor, he was entangled by Yi Chun. This was Yi Chun's plan. He would drag the Troll Emperor far away, and then use the large-scale dream ability of the Wolf King to make the Demon Kings with low willpower fall into a dream. This way, the strength of both sides would be reduced to a limit. If the Troll Emperor rushed over, this plan wouldn't work. With the strong willpower and terrifying, boundless magic of the Troll Emperor, he could resist all of them by himself. As for joining forces to cast soul attacks, it wouldn't work now. Everyone's soul power had been consumed to a critical point since the start of the battle. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to last until now. Chapter 10:11. Everyone, be careful of that Wolf King. He has a dreamscape ability, and those with willpower below the 7th order will fall into his dreamscape. The range of his dreamscape is over 250,000 li. The Troll Emperor's thoughts were meticulous. The Wolf King had only used his dreamscape ability once, and he had already analyzed the pros and cons. 250,000 li? Retreat. Hearing this, the Demon Kings hurriedly retreated, widening the distance between them to 400,000 li. This distance was already very far, and any further and they would not be able to sense each other. My innate ability can create a thought shielding field with a radius of 10 meters. It can cancel out dreamscape abilities. Stay close to me. Although dreamscape abilities were strange, there were many strange abilities in the outside world. In the outside world, there were even more strange abilities than dreamscape abilities. However, this did not mean that these abilities had no natural enemies. After some people suffer a loss, they would use these abilities to research secret arts to counter them. In addition, there were also people with innate abilities that could resist dreamscape abilities. It's actually dreamscape ability. Against dreamscape abilities, if one's willpower is not high enough, the soul defense layer is useless. This is because the soul defense layer is also constructed from soul force, and the essence is unchanged. Only willpower secret arts can work. Willpower secret arts were even rarer than soul secret arts. Willpower originated from the soul, but it had no definite relationship with the soul. Using willpower to shield dreamscape abilities could protect the soul from being affected. For a moment, the Demon Kings were thinking of ways to deal with it. On Elysium's side, the Wolf King said to everyone, "My dreamscape ability has a range of 350,000 li, but the further the distance, the smaller the effect. At 350,000 li, only those with late 6th order willpower and below will be affected. At 300,000 li, those with peak 6th order willpower and below will be affected. At 250,000 li, those with 7th order willpower and below will be affected. This is the optimal distance. Any closer and it will be impossible to surpass." "How long will the dreamscape be?" Jailer asked. "It depends on the level of willpower. At 250,000 li, peak 6th order willpower will fall for about 2 breaths. Late 6th order willpower will fall for 5 breaths. Mid 6th order willpower will fall for 9 breaths. Of course, if the other party is attacked, they will wake up immediately. Although dreamscape abilities could make people fall, don't forget that everyone had immortal bodies. Even if they fell into a dreamscape and were attacked, they would not die immediately. Among everyone, only Su Jing had the ability to kill a Demon King in an instant. The others would probably have to attack many times to kill a Demon King. Therefore, both Su Jing and the Wolf King were crucial. Demon Kings in Dreamscape would wake up immediately after being attacked and would not be given a second chance. Those with peak 6th order willpower are hard to kill. 2 breaths is too short. We won't be able to get there in time. It seems that killing 100 Demon Kings is already our limit," Xianhou said after pondering for a while. The Demon Flower Emperor frowned. They seemed to know the Wolf King's ability. Once the Wolf King gets close to them, he will definitely be attacked. "No worries. I have a way to let the Wolf King go over safely and come back at any time. Shinho said confidently. All right, I almost forgot that you're proficient in Space Profound. The Demon Flower Emperor nodded. Xuanho's research on Space Profound was varied. Although some of it could not be used in battle, at a crucial moment, it could be used to reverse the situation. Taking a deep breath, Shinho said to everyone, "Everyone, remember, when I say move, we will advance together. When I say attack, we will attack together. If the timing is good, we might be able to eliminate a large number of Demon Kings in one go." Okay, we'll listen to you. With so many Demon Kings, we should eliminate as many as we can. I didn't expect the Sword King to have a Wolf King who is proficient in dreamscape ability. From the start of the battle until now, Yi Qin's role was unquestionable. If he did not entangle the Troll Emperor, this battle would have been lost long ago. Now, there was the addition of the Wolf King. This made everyone secretly sigh at Yi Qin's unfathomable strength. At the same time, they were all overjoyed. The Wolf King, get ready. Shinho secretly told the Wolf King some details. I'm ready. The Wolf King nodded, his eyes fixed forward. Shinho did not speak. Her hands formed seals at a dreamy speed. Because the speed was too fast, at a glance, it would seem that her fingers were not moving at all. Behind the dream-eating wolf, a mirror suddenly appeared. The mirror reflected the Wolf King's figure. The next moment, the Wolf King suddenly appeared in the mirror. Immediately, the mirror radiated brilliance, and a five-colored light beam ejected the Wolf King. The speed of light was 300,000 meters, which was 600,000 kilometers. It was several times faster than the speed of anyone present in the void. It almost exceeded everyone's reaction time. About 200,000 kilometers ahead, the Dream Wolf King's figure appeared. Not good. The Demon Kings were shocked. In their line of sight, endless light gushed over. They had no time to react. Kill him. Although there were not many Demon Kings with willpower at the seventh step, there were still dozens of them. These dozens of Demon Kings were still very clear-headed. They joined forces and attacked the Wolf King. However, just as they were about to attack, they discovered that a mirror had appeared in front of the Dream Wolf King. The mirror reflected the Dream Wolf King, and then, just like before, the Dream Wolf King was sent back in the form of a multicolored beam of light. Their attacks didn't even harm a hair on the Dream Wolf King's body. Move! The moment the mirror appeared, Shinho instantly transmitted her voice. Swish! 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 Everyone from Elysium broke through the space and rapidly shuttled through the void. After 2 breaths, the space shattered, and everyone appeared at a place only tens of thousands of kilometers away from the Demon Kings. Attack! In the void, everyone had already prepared their ultimate move. The moment they appeared, they attacked. Boom, boom, boom. Saber light, sword chi, palm shadows, leg shadows, fist energy. More than 200 attacks flew out. At this time, the Demon Kings whose willpower had reached the peak of the 6th step had just woken up. However, they clearly had no time to prepare their attacks. They only felt that as soon as they woke up, countless attacks bombarded them. Although these attacks were not as fast as light, it only took an instant for them to cross hundreds of thousands of kilometers. As for those dozens of Demon Kings who had not fallen into the dreamland, how could they block so many attacks? They were not the Troll Emperor. If they were the Troll Emperor, he could completely enlarge his body and fight against everyone from Elysium. With his boundless mana, he could completely do this. At most, he would lose half of his mana, but it was impossible for him to die. Pu. In the blink of an eye, 60 to 70 Demon Kings exploded, turning into blood mist. Before this blood mist could condense, it was evaporated into nothingness. The combined attack of over 200 kings was no joke. These attacks stacked together, and the quantitative change resulted in a qualitative change. It was like a massive star exploding in the midst of the Demon Kings, radiating boundless light and heat. Roar! This was not the end. A dragon's roar suddenly came from the sky. A golden dragon that was thousands of kilometers long appeared tens of thousands of kilometers in front of the demon kings. The dragon opened its mouth, and a dazzling light wave that was like a small sun shot out. In the next moment, another 30 demon kings were evaporated by the light wave. The chaotic force caused all the surviving demon kings to be stunned, and they could not tell which direction was which. Retreat. Suonho was not greedy. If they continued to attack at this time, they might be able to kill more demon kings, but it would put everyone in danger. Once these demon kings woke up, they would definitely have many casualties. After all, there were more than 600 demon kings. Killing around 100 meant that there would be more than 500 of them. With the combined attack of more than 500 demon kings, they would not be able to bear the consequences. Including Su Jing, everyone from Elysium flew back, increasing the distance between them. Killed 100 demon kings. Not bad. Yichen nodded slightly when he saw all of this. He did not think that the Wolf King could turn the tables with his Dream World ability. This was impossible. The difference in numbers between the two sides was too great. If they wanted to turn the tables, it would be impossible to do it with just one the Wolf King. Unless there were 3 or 4 Wolf Kings. Of course, if there were 3 or 4 Su Jing, yes, they could also turn the tables. Unfortunately, they did not have them. Good, very good. The Lord of Fear's expression was ferocious, and his eyes were bloodshot. About 100 demon kings had been annihilated in front of his eyes. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation. Back then, they had failed because Elysium had people who were absolutely powerful. For example, people like the Yuan Emperor, who had the combat power of a 7-star pinnacle. Now, be in terms of numbers or powerhouses, they far surpassed their opponents. However, they did not expect that they would still be in such a miserable state. Out of 1,000 demon kings, there were only about 500 left, which was a loss of almost half of their forces. On the other hand, Elysium had only lost about 300 people. Of course, he also knew that there were 3 reasons for this result. The first reason was that Yi Chen's combat power was too terrifying. Although he was not as good as the Troll Emperor, he could hold off the Troll Emperor. The second reason was the Golden Dragon. The Golden Dragon was a headache in terms of defense, size, and lethality. In a group battle, it was even more useful than Yi Chen. The third reason was the Wolf King, who was proficient in the ability of dreams. Although he did not kill a single demon king, more than 100 demon kings had died because of him. At this time, the Lord of Fear secretly cursed the cursed demon emperor. He should not have died so early. If the cursed demon emperor had not died, with the power of his curse, he could have cursed most people. If he had not died, this battle would have ended long ago. How could so many demon kings have died? However, he did not expect that the other party would target the cursed demon emperor. It could only be said that they were too careless. The result of carelessness was that the direction of the situation had become confusing. Very good. I did not expect you to be so tenacious. This is indeed beyond my expectations, said the Troll Emperor, who was held back by Yi Chen, as he punched away Yi Chen. Yi Chen frowned. He had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. However, your ending has long been decided. No matter how much you struggle, it is useless. Taking a deep breath, the Troll Emperor transmitted his voice. Use the puppet warships and join forces to kill them. Use the puppet warships? The Lord of Fear also felt that there was no need to worry about the puppet warships being damaged. They had already lost enough demon kings. If they did not use the puppet warships, although they still had a 99% chance of winning, how many demon kings would be left by then? The faces of the people of Elysium suddenly turned pale. In the distance, puppet warships of 700 to 800 meters long flew over like a moving dark cloud. Chapter 10:12. The land of extreme negative energy was located between the misty snow region and the wavy cloud region. There was a Stoneman formation in this place. In the past, Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng had entered the underground world from this place. Rumble. The Stoneman formation, which was made up of many stone men, suddenly started to move. These stone men kept moving like stars, or like 2 invisible giants using the stone men as chess pieces. In the blink of an eye, the stoneman formation had changed hundreds of times. After a few blinks of an eye, the stoneman formation had changed beyond recognition. The moment the stone golem formation stopped moving, a vast ripple spread out. Then, a transparent light formation appeared above the stone golem formation. The light formation covered an area of several dozen li, and there were people standing on the surface of the light formation. At a rough glance, there were at least 100,000 of them, and the 100 or so people in the lead did not have powerful auras. However, when they opened and closed their eyes, there seemed to be stars appearing and disappearing, and all sorts of mysterious trajectories could be seen. Elysium is in danger. Everyone, it's time for us to do our part. Standing at the front was a white-haired old man. He wore a simple robe, and his hair was draped over his shoulders. He held a wooden staff in his hand, and at the end of the staff, there was a huge sky-blue gem. Since ancient times, every time Elysium faced a calamity, our underground race has never been absent. This time is no exception. In order to prevent Elysium from being enslaved, don't show any mercy. Now, let's show those humans on the surface how powerful our will is and how magical our will attacks are. Let's go. The brown-robed old man, standing next to the white-haired old man, waved his hand and shouted, "Whoosh!" As soon as the brown-robed old man finished his words, the light formation gradually turned illusory. In the next moment, the huge light formation, carrying more than 100,000 people, disappeared into the void. These puppet battleships should be at the same level as the puppet sex battleships from 5,000 years ago. However, back then, the puppet sect only managed to develop 3 battleships, but there are 400 of them here. The puppet school had long since been submerged in the river of time, but the puppets they had left behind were still impressive. It was said that the sect protecting battleship of the puppet school could fight against several normal kings. If it was given time to accumulate energy, it could kill a peak king in one shot. Of course, this was just pure power. A peak king would not just stand there and let it kill them, but it also reflected the destructive power of the battleship. Forget it. If worst comes to worst, we'll just fight to the death. Since we can't defend Elysium, I, the Void Ancestor, am willing to fight to the death. I believe that the spirits of our ancestors in heaven won't blame us too much. The Void Ancestor's expression calmed down, his eyes filled with the resolution of certain death. The time given to us is too short, and the time given to those geniuses is also too short. They haven't grown strong enough yet. Although the internal conflict can make them stronger and cultivate a real Gu King, time waits for no man. Jailer glanced at Yi Chun and sighed. The latter was undoubtedly a peerless character of this era. If he had enough time, he would not be weaker than Yuan Emperor and the others. If they had known that the foreign race's calamity would come so soon, they wouldn't have minded making Elysium more chaotic. Perhaps it would have helped the geniuses grow faster. One should know that a person as powerful as Yuan Emperor could fight against hundreds of kings. They could use guerrilla warfare to kill batch after batch of enemies until all of them were dead. It's not too late. As long as we can hold on until the underground race arrives, we still have hope. Shinho looked at the sky. The underground race? Yes, but we don't know if the current underground race is strong enough. Otherwise, it would just be a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. There weren't many people who knew about the underground race. The underground race didn't want too many people to know about their existence. They had always been mysterious. The puppet warships were moving very fast. The dazzling blue flame at their tail gave them a strong driving force. Inside each puppet warship, there were dozens of demons. They were either controlling the direction and driving force of the warship, or controlling the puppet cannons at the front and sides of the warship. They had a clear division of labor. You still have a chance to surrender now. We, the demons, actually don't want to kill wantonly. We are even willing to govern Elysium together with you. However, if you are stubborn, then don't blame us, the demons, for not giving you a chance. One of the 6-star devils said. Pooey. Chu Zhongtian spat on the ground. You want us to surrender? What a joke. If we govern together, I'm afraid we will become your puppets. My master has already sacrificed himself. I, Chu Zhongtian, am not a coward who is afraid of death. If you want to take over Elysium, you have to step over my dead body. Otherwise, don't even think about it. In Elysium, there are only kings who die in battle. There are no kings who surrender. I would like to see how tough your puppet warships are. Can they withstand my hammer? You want us to surrender? Dream on. If you want to fight, let's fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense? The death of more than 300 kings didn't make the remaining people timid. Now, they were in a killing frenzy. The only thing on their minds was how to survive and kill more enemies. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Kill them all. The Lord of Fear was more inclined to kill this group of people. Kill all those who dared to resist in Elysium. Only by killing all those who resisted could they take over Elysium more smoothly. Shio, 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 shio. The Demon Kings and the puppet warships advanced rapidly. The cannons of the puppet warships were already flickering with different colors. That was a sign that the cannons were about to be fired. Don't give the puppet warships the chance to accumulate energy. Charge! Now, the people of Elysium had been forced to the edge of a cliff. If they took a step back, they would be in the abyss. If they took a step forward, they would be facing countless enemies. They might as well fight to the death. None of them fled. None of them retreated. All of them executed their movement techniques and pounced forward from all angles. Some of them faced the puppet warships above, while some faced the Demon Kings. All of them were emitting a tragic aura as though they were facing death calmly. Their eyes were filled with madness and terrifying calmness. Kill. The Lord of Fear was the first to charge at the Void Ancestor. The Lord of Fear had never killed a living person. The other party was no exception. Boom, boom, boom. The battle began once again. The moment it started, it entered a white-hot stage. It was several times more tragic than before. After a few breaths, more than 100 puppet warships had accumulated energy. Beams of different colors shot out, interweaving into a web of death. The Elysium Demon Kings that were hit by these beams of light died instantly. Although most of them didn't die, they were sent flying or had half their body shattered. They were then easily killed by the Demon Kings that rushed over. The situation was one-sided. Break! Dugu Ju gripped his saber with both hands and swung it down heavily. Whoosh! A pale white saber light sliced through the sky. 3 puppet warships were cleaved into 2. Another 2 puppet warships were sent flying by the aftershocks of the saber light. Their surfaces were flickering. Essence of the realm, reincarnation. Mysterious Queen's eyes were cold. Her hands rapidly formed seals, and many mirrors were born in the void. These mirrors absorbed any energy that was reflected on them, and then shot out beams of colorful light towards the puppet battleships in the sky. For a moment, there were puppet battleships exploding from time to time, like huge fireworks blooming. Moreover, as long as these mirrors existed, they would continue to absorb energy and attack. Every attack was equivalent to the full force of a tidal monarch. The results were glorious. In a short period of time, 20 puppet warships were destroyed. However, on the side of Elysium, dozens of Demon Kings had died. Following that, the Demon Kings that attacked the puppet warships were surrounded by 3 Demon Kings. They didn't have the time to attack the puppet warships. In the sky above the ocean, gazing domain, boundless waves appeared out of nowhere. A huge light formation appeared. Kill! One figure after another flew down from the light formation and joined the battlefield. Because they had come so suddenly, the demon army was slaughtered. The attacks of these people were different from normal humans. Their attacks were abnormally fleeting. They didn't seem to make any movements, but their attacks landed on the demon soldiers. Some of the stronger ones even created terrifying storms. These storms wreaked havoc, and wherever they went, the demon soldiers were torn to pieces. They're here. Serenity's eyes lit up. Her face was full of joy. It's the underground race? Li Xiaoyan was also very excited. Just like Yi Chun, he had entered the underground world before. Serenity was the saintess of a sacred race in the underground world. The people of the underground world didn't cultivate true yuan. Instead, they mainly cultivated will. Will was formless and intangible, but it had a huge destructive power. Moreover, it showed no signs of attacking. The reinforcements are here. Everyone continue to kill. Although they didn't know the origin of these people, they only killed the demons and not them. It was obvious that they were the mysterious reinforcements of Elysium. For a moment, everyone's morale was high. Tens of thousands of underground humans had thrown themselves into the battlefield, causing a huge impact. These underground humans could use their thoughts to create a very large defensive barrier, and everyone was very safe inside. Normally, as long as dozens of underground humans joined hands, they would be able to make the defensive barrier last for a very long time, and the people inside the defensive barrier were not restricted by the defensive barrier, so they could fiercely attack the demon clan outside. As such, the Devil Race army was naturally killed in an incomparably sullen manner. On the light formation, there were more than 100 people left. The white-haired old man waved his hand, and the light formation broke through the space and swept towards the battlefield of the Demon Kings. Lan Sanmei had tried her best to kill, but there were too many enemies. She had just slashed a Demon King's body when she was attacked several times. If she hadn't reacted in time and avoided being hit in the vital parts, she would have died. But now, she had nowhere to hide. A total of 5 Demon Kings were attacking her together. Buzz! At this moment, an invisible barrier suddenly appeared in front of Lan Sanmei. The horrifying attack landed on it, stirring up a large amount of ripples. The next moment, the invisible barrier shattered, but it also gave Lan Sanmei enough time to dodge. Raising her head, Lan Sanmei saw many unfamiliar people. These people didn't have any true Yuan aura on them, but they were all extremely fast, as if they were moving with their will. Chapter 10:13. Haha, the underground race is finally here. Although the prison ancestor's limbs had been sent flying by the 3 6-star Demon Kings, and his body was badly mutilated, he still laughed heartily when he saw the hundreds of strangers who had suddenly joined the battlefield. He knew that with these hundreds of underground kings, they wouldn't be able to turn defeat into victory, but at least they had the confidence to fight. Underground race, it's all up to you now. After the Void Ancestor said this, he was immediately torn into two by the Lord of Fear. The Lord of Fear's hands emitted black, demonic fire, instantly turning the Void Ancestor into ashes. Not a single drop of blood was left. Oomph! The brown-robed old man next to the white-haired old man snorted and sighed softly. This demon is so powerful. My mental barrier only lasted for less than 1/100th of a blink of an eye, and it was forcefully torn apart by him. Just now, he had wanted to save the Void Ancestor, but the Lord of Fear's strength was beyond his imagination. His combat power is close to that of a 7-star. Naturally, he isn't someone you can resist. Leave him to me. The white-haired old man raised his cane high, and more than 10 different colored light beams were bounced back, piercing through the puppet battleship that had fired the cannons. All right, I can't resist this demon, but he doesn't seem to be the most powerful one. The brown-robed old man couldn't help but look at Yi Chun and the Troll Emperor, who were hundreds of thousands of miles away. With his mental power, his senses could extend very far. That place was like a chaotic and disorderly black hole. Just his mental power alone made him feel like he was being affected. It was hard to imagine how powerful the two sides were. The brown-robed old man could discover Yi Chun and the Troll Emperor, so the white-haired old man was no exception. As he bounced back countless attacks, he said, "That's a battle between 7-star. A 7-star and a 6-star Overlord might seem like a small level difference, but if you want to cross over, your strength will increase by at least 2 or 3 times. That troll's demonic power is endless. Kings who are much stronger than him might not be able to do anything to him. That young man's sword intent has already reached the 8th level, and he has formed a protective sword intent. If his sword intent doesn't scatter, at least 50% of the attacks that land on him will be blocked. The 8th level sword intent is really incredible." The brown-robed old man, who had already killed several Demon Kings, said in surprise. Their underground race mainly cultivated mental power, which was another way of using the will. It was a kind of invisible mental power. To be more precise, it used the will as the core and acted on the outside world, producing a huge amount of power. Therefore, the will of the underground race would increase along with the realm. However, there was only one person whose will had reached the 8th level, and that was the great patriarch of the underground race, the white-haired old man in front of him. The brown-robed old man himself only had peak 7-step willpower. Of course, although the willpower of Will and Jun Yuan were the same, the degree of excavation was completely different. It was not an exaggeration to say that those who cultivated Will had already excavated their willpower to the limit, while those who cultivated Jin Yuan could only excavate 20 to 30% of their willpower. With different Daos, the emphasis was also different. In the underground world, there was no way to cultivate Jun Yuan, so they could only focus on cultivating mental power. If they were to divert their attention to cultivating Jun Yuan, they would not be able to do either. Moreover, the higher the realm, the more they could not afford to be distracted. They could only focus on one, because in the later stages, if they cultivated both at the same time, there would be a divergence, and they could fall into bedevilment at any time. However, reaching the 8th level at such a young age was definitely shocking. If any young man in the underground world could reach the 8th level will, he would definitely be the next great patriarch, and he would also be promoted from a saint to a great saint. Apart from the fact that he wouldn't have the authority of a great patriarch, his status would be the same as the great patriarchs, and the other saints would have to respect him. Old man, if you had not come out, you would still have been able to protect yourselves. Within 3 to 5 years, even us demons would not be able to do anything to you. Now let's die together with them. After killing the Void Ancestor, the Lord of Fear did not stop, continuing to attack the white-haired old man. Regarding the existence of the underground race, he naturally knew about them. In the previous battle with Elysium, these underground race had appeared. Hong, a palm shot out, and the terrifying bloody light turned into countless bloody shadows that rushed toward the white-haired old man. The underground race is also a part of Elysium. When Elysium is in trouble, how can we not come? On the other hand, you demons have never won, and this time will not be an exception. The white-haired old man held the staff in his right hand and stretched it out. The next moment, the sky-blue gem at the end of the staff flashed, and a slightly blue curved mental barrier blocked in front of him. Layers of bloody shadows crashed onto it, and there was a soft popping sound. If there were more than 200 of you, I might be a little afraid, but now, you're just a joke. The Lord of Fear's figure followed closely behind the bloody shadows. With a rip of his large hand, the blue curved mental barrier was forcibly torn apart, revealing a gap. The Lord of Fear, who had half of his body squeezed over, opened his mouth and spat out a jet of black, demonic fire. Disintegrate! The white-haired old man was calm and unruffled. The space in front of his brow rippled, and the black, demonic fire suddenly paused before disintegrating at an extremely fast speed. Oh, you have some skills. Although this was what he said, the Lord of Fear's expression became much more solemn. When one's mental power was cultivated to a certain level, in terms of strength, it could pull down stars, and in terms of subtlety, it could disintegrate all things. Obviously, the white-haired old man opposite him had already reached this level. Blood Soul Divine Fist. However, the stronger the enemy, the stronger his killing intent would be. The mental barrier collapsed, and a blood-red fist blasted toward the white-haired old man's head. The bloody light on this fist had turned into liquid, and from liquid to solid again. The surface of the fist was constantly jumping with blood-colored lightning. Before it got close to the white-haired old man, it made his chi and blood boil, and his body seemed to be about to explode, transforming into chi and blood into this fist. This was a martial art of the demons that restrained people with weak bodies, and it was the most suitable to deal with the underground clan. Dimensional Shield. The white-haired old man's means were more than what the Lord of Fear had imagined. His body didn't move, but the white-haired old man's figure suddenly moved away. There seemed to be a layer of world between the two of them, and the slightest deviation could lead to a great error. The trajectory of the Lord of Fear's blood soul divine fist deviated to an unknown place, and the last punch blasted a demon king tens of thousands of miles away into nothingness. Damn it, this old guy isn't that easy to deal with. The Lord of Fear put away his contempt. Although the old man opposite him had a weak body, it wasn't easy to attack him. On the contrary, it was very difficult. The white-haired old man also raised his spirit. As a Will King, it wasn't that he didn't have an undying body. On the contrary, no one in Elysium could compare with him in terms of undying body. Every flesh particle in his body contained a rank 6 will. Under normal circumstances, if a flesh particle contained a rank 4 will, it would be the realm of blood rebirth. However, the weak chi in blood was an unavoidable weakness of the underground race. They didn't cultivate Jin Yuan, so Jin Yuan and chi couldn't be exchanged. Under normal circumstances, even if their bodies were smashed dozens of times, they would still be able to reform their bodies. Because of the rank 5 will, these flesh particles were extremely difficult to destroy, and it was even more impossible to destroy them all. It was like how you could smash an egg with one punch, but if you were asked to smash a rock, the difficulty would increase by dozens of times. However, everything had its advantages and disadvantages. The flesh particles were extremely difficult to destroy, but if the chi and blood of the flesh particles were extracted, the will would lose its sustenance and dissipate into nothingness. The Lord of Fear's blood-soul divine fist could undoubtedly extract a large amount of his chi and blood. If he was hit once, his vitality would definitely be greatly damaged. The appearance of the underground race turned the situation around. On Elysium's side, they were no longer in a passive situation. These Will Kings could reflect the light beams of the puppet battleships, and they could even control the direction of the puppet battleships, causing them to attack each other, causing internal friction. Of course, as the Lord of Fear had said, the Will Kings of the underground race were still too few. Although they could catch the demons unprepared at the beginning, as time went on, the balance was still slowly tilting towards the demon's side. The only fortunate thing was that with the addition of the underground race, the number of people dying began to decrease. It's not a solution to drag on like this. Yi Chun, who was fighting with the Troll Emperor, frowned unknowingly. The appearance of the underground race did make him happy for a while, especially that white-haired old man, whose strength was comparable to the Lord of Fear, and that brown-robed old man also had peak 6-star battle prowess. They could be said to be two great reinforcements. However, there were still more than 500 demons, plus more than 300 puppet battleships. The gap was still huge, and if this dragged on, Elysium would be exhausted to death. Besides that, Yi Chun didn't know if it was just an illusion, but he had a vague premonition that a huge crisis was quietly approaching, and his mind was very depressed. It's almost time for you to die. The Troll Emperor was like a tireless machine, attacking Yi Chun again and again. Although the violent fist force was mostly offset by the swordwell armor, Yi Chun still didn't feel very good. After all, he didn't have an indestructible body. After fighting with the opponent for countless moves, there would always be a little reaction, and now, the reaction was getting more and more intense. Yi Chun was about to retort, but suddenly his eyebrows twitched, and he knew something was wrong. The Yuan Emperor's voice sounded in his mind. Someone was unsealing the seal of the demon space. It should be known that the demon space was the demon ancestral tree. Once the demon ancestral tree was released, it would be an irreversible disaster. These demons had their cultivation suppressed by Elysium, so their strength was reduced by many times. If they came into contact with the demon ancestral tree, they would return to their peak. At that time, not to mention a group of demon kings, just a single troll emperor could kill all of them, and no one would be able to stop him. "Senior, what should we do?" Yi Chun asked anxiously. The Yuan Emperor said, "It's too late. They seem to have made a plan, and only started to unseal it now. By the time we get there, the seal will have already been unsealed. Now, we can only hope that the immortal tree has awakened. Otherwise, the Yuan Emperor didn't continue, but Yi Chun knew what the consequences were. For a moment, his heart was as heavy as water. Chapter 10:14. Kill. Due to the arrival of the underground race, the battle between the kings had fallen into a stalemate. Only 1 or 2 people would die after a while. However, in the sea-gazing region, the situation did not return to a stalemate because of the appearance of the underground race. Instead, it became more and more tragic. On the ground, there were corpses, broken flesh, and blood. A large number of broken weapons were stuck on the ground, and the blood had yet to dry. As the wind blew past, the pungent smell of blood almost made people suspect that they had entered a world of blood. Junior brothers and sisters set up the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword formation. Yin Jianwei said to Dongfang Bai, Lung Xinghan, and the others as he watched more and more demons rush over. All right, Dongfang Bai nodded. Up until now, they had consumed more than half of their Zhenyuan. Although everyone had improved, and their killing methods are getting better, facing the endless demon army, if they were alone, they would only be killed. As for the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword formation, it was a simplified version of the Big Dipper 7-star sword formation. It only needed 7 people to set it up, and if they used it well, it could increase their strength by 7 times. The 7 people setting up the sword formation were Yin Jianhui, Dongfang Bai, Huang Sumei, Lung Xinghan, Yi Xian, Yi Xiaoxiao, and a genius disciple of the Yi clan, Yi Yang. Although the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword formation was a simplified version of the Big Dipper 7-star sword formation, the difficulty of setting it up increased instead. Without a natural talent, it would be impossible to comprehend the essence of the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword formation. 2 years ago, Yi Chun had them practice the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword formation and would occasionally spar with them to point out their mistakes and misunderstandings. 3 months ago, they had finally practiced the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword formation to completion. 1 person was equivalent to 7 people, and 7 people were equivalent to 1 person. Every move of theirs had 7 times the power, and their Zhenyuan was connected as one. The 7 people stood in the shape of the Big Dipper 7-star sword formation, and then moved quickly. Although their positions would change every time they moved, the overall shape remained the same. Sometimes it looked like the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, and sometimes it was slanted, straight, and sometimes even vertical. Gradually, their dantian lit up like twinkling stars, and with their Zhenyuan as the center, they're connected. Kill! Yin Jianhui waved his sword, and 1,000 zhang long sword lights sprinkled out, turning a row of demon army soldiers into a blood mist. Kill! Dongfang Bai, Huang Sumei, Lung Xinghan, Yi Xian, Yi Xiaoxiao, and Yi Yang also waved their swords. They could feel that as they waved their swords, their dantian would swell a bit, and then the abundant Zhenyuan would pour into their swords. This was the power of the sword formation, and also the power of all of them. Of course, everything had its advantages and disadvantages. Although the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword formation was powerful, its consumption of Zhenyuan would also increase by 7 times. Fortunately, they were only at the astral reaching realm, and could take pellets to replenish Zhenyuan. This time, Yi Chun had given each of them a lot of pellets of all kinds, so they wouldn't have to worry about running out of Zhenyuan. Tao is emotionless, but also emotional. In the demon army that was extremely far away, countless sword lights appeared. These sword lights were extremely sharp and indestructible. However, their shapes were extremely soft, like ribbons or willow catkins dancing in the sky. The demons that were entangled by these sword lights did not even have the time to scream before they were cut into hundreds of pieces. Li Daoxian, your emotionless sword art has improved again. I wonder how it compares with my fire spirit godly blade. The crimson blade light crisscrossed, sweeping everything in its way. Yan Qihua laughed out loud as he said to Li Daoxian, "Only by staying alive will there be a meaning to the competition." Li Daoxian sighed lightly. He had killed a lot of demons, but up until now, he had also seen countless martial geniuses fall with his own eyes. Many of them were martial geniuses on the Hidden Dragon rank, dying with honor. They did not come here for nothing. Perhaps, in a while, we will all die with honor. Let's keep killing. Bing Ling seems to have killed more demons than us. Yan Chihua saw Bing Ling, who was dozens of miles away. Bing Ling's Aizhen Yuan was the most suitable for group battles. As soon as those demons got close to her, their blood vessels were immediately frozen, and their movements became sluggish. In the next moment, their bodies were covered with a thin layer of frost, and they could only use 50 to 60% of their power at most. However, those demons that were hit by her were not only torn into pieces, but there was also no blood splashing out. All the blood had been frozen. Boom, boom, boom. Ice fragments flew everywhere. Bing Ling was like an ice storm. Wherever she went, the temperature began to plummet. Although her battle power might not be higher than Li Daoxian and Yin Chihua, the number of demons she killed was higher than the two. The area they were in was just a few small dots on the sea gazing. Compared to the whole battlefield, it was almost negligible. If the huge sea gazing was shrunk, one could see that the black color represented by the demon army was like ink spreading out. Anything in front of the ink would be eroded bit by bit until nothing was left. In other words, the demon army had already occupied the absolute advantage. Whether it was the number or the average battle power, they were higher than Elysium. Although the participation of the underground race had caused a lot of casualties in the demon army, the smarter demons began to understand how to break up into smaller groups. Like a cavalry, they charged at the opponent in groups. "We can't hold on much longer," Brother Sunday. Wang Snake and Wang Mei stood side by side, blocking the locust-like demon army. Beside them were the members of the South Shallow Sea Alliance, which had less than 3,000 of them left. It should be known that before the war started, they had more than 10,000 members. But now more than 70% of them had died. "Even if we can't hold on, we have to." Sun Shaojin had turned into a red-gold evil ape, which was 10,000 meters tall. The iron rod in his hand was also 10,000 meters long. With a casual wave, a large number of demons would explode. However, his huge body made him a living target. Without a choice, his body instantly shrunk. Hearing that, he turned his head and yelled. At this moment, they could not retreat. Once they retreated, they would definitely be defeated. This was not the same as fighting alone. At the same time, the fallen Dust Sword sect was also facing a serious challenge. More than 20,000 demon army had their eyes on them and were attacking from all directions. Even though they could arrange sword formations, facing enemies that were several times their size, it was still extremely difficult. In a short period of time, 2 sword snake formations and 1 sword dragon formation had already been broken. The people who had arranged the sword formations had all died in battle. Even the sword formations had been broken, not to mention those fallen Dust Sword sect members who could not arrange sword formations and could only cooperate with each other. "Jewar, live well. You're my pride. I can die without regrets." From afar, Dugu Ju had seen his father, the leader of the Dugu family, being killed by 2 demon kings. Before his death, his father had glanced at him with eyes full of pride and a faint longing. Dugu Ju knew what that faint longing was. It was his father's longing for his mother. His mother had died a long time ago. At that time, he was still a child, and now his father had also died. Although, as he had said, he could die without regrets. But why did his heart hurt so much? Like a wounded wolf, Dugu Ju raised his head and roared. It was a roar that went straight into one's soul, as well as a kind of anger and madness that came from his soul. His white hair grew crazily, and the aura on Dugu Ju's body had completely surpassed that of a human. Anyone who came in contact with this aura would be filled with despair. "Die. All of you die. All of you die for me." The saber was no longer a saber, but a raging flame of vengeance. The saber in Dugu Ju's hand was wrapped in pale white flames. As he waved it, the pale white flames swept everywhere. The despairing saber intent contained in it was many times stronger than before. Even if one was touched by it, one would feel despair and die. The 3 demon kings around Dugu Ju did not even have the time to scream before they were swallowed by the pale white flames. Before they died, a pale white spiritual body seemed to merge into their saber intent. Completely ignoring his own existence, Duguju dashed towards the two demon kings who had killed his father at a terrifying speed. 2 sabers. Just 2 sabers. The 2 demon kings died just like that. They could not understand why Duguju's strength had increased by several times. That terrifying saber intent made them feel despair, causing their strength to be greatly reduced. Of course, they did not know that Duguju's saber intent was the extremely rare, despairing saber intent. When his emotions were greatly stimulated, his strength would skyrocket. His saber art would also unknowingly reach a terrifying realm of self-improvement. At this moment, Duguju's strength had impressively reached the 6-star level. Yi Chun, the seal of the demonic space, has been unsealed. After about 5 minutes, Yuan Emperor's voice rang in Yi Chen's mind. Yi Chen was already mentally prepared for this. However, no matter how mentally prepared he was, such a grievous news still made him feel an unprecedented sorrow. The outcome has been decided. As the commander of the demons, the Troll Emperor also knew about the unsealing of the demonic space. He immediately laughed out loud, looking at Yi Chun as if he was looking at a dead man. As long as his strength returned to its peak, not to mention 1 Yi Chun, even 10 Yi Chens would be annihilated by him with 1 punch. Even if Yuan Emperor were come back to life, he would be able to easily kill him. As a demon emperor at the 7th layer of life and death realm, according to this world's battle strength, he would have a 9-star battle strength. At that time, who would be able to stop him? It should be known that not only had his cultivation base been suppressed by 2 layers, he could not use the demon's martial arts to its peak. Moreover, his body had been sealed, and a large amount of his essence, chi, and soul had been worn away, and he had yet to recover. Even Liu Xiaoyu could unleash a sword strike that burned his life force. I, Yi Chun, am not afraid of anything. 3rd layer of life and death realm, break through for me. His sorrowful mood was cut down by the sword intent. Blue veins popped out on Yi Chen's forehead like small snakes, and his aura increased exponentially. Immediately after, an unknown flame burst out of his body, causing cracks to appear on his body, as if he was a delicate porcelain that was about to shatter. Chapter 10:15. What? He wants to break through to the 3rd sky of life and death realm? The Troll Emperor was stunned. Elysium was not a perfect world. In fact, the world the demons lived in was not a perfect world either. However, compared to Elysium, the world the demons lived in was undoubtedly more advanced and closer to perfection. Therefore, the demons could cultivate to the 5th sky of life and death realm in their own world. Of course, ordinary demons could only cultivate to the 3rd sky of life and death realm. If they continued to advance, they would be devoured by the rules and turn into ashes. As far as he knew, the cultivation limit of Elysium was the 2nd sky of life and death realm. As long as one didn't go through a dead end, no one could surpass this realm. Even someone as amazing as the Yuan Emperor was only at the peak of the 2nd sky of life and death realm. He would never be able to advance an inch in his life, and he wouldn't dare to do so unless someone forced him to risk his life. What a pity! Such a genius doesn't die by my hands. But soon, the Troll Emperor shook his head. He didn't think Yi Chun could reach the 3rd sky of life and death realm. Rules were rules, and they wouldn't change because of anyone or anything. Although Elysium was their home, Elysium itself couldn't change the rules. Of course, the premise was that Elysium had its own consciousness. Once the rules were changed, it would be disorderly, and the result of disorder would be destruction. Crack! A faint crackling sound came from Yi Chen's body. It was the sound of a burning flame. This kind of flame came from nothingness and started exploding from the depths of his cells. The destructive power it produced was even more frightening than having one's body torn apart. This was because it was erasing the will of the cells. Once the will collapsed, Yi Chen's body would turn into ashes, leaving nothing behind. Clenching both of his fists, Yi Chen's expression was unprecedentedly firm. It seemed as if nothing could shake his confidence. He firmly believed that he could reach the 3rd sky of life and death realm. At this moment, he had already ignored all negative emotions. Even if the heavens told him that he couldn't succeed, he would turn a deaf ear to them. If he didn't go crazy, he wouldn't survive. If they didn't stake everything in one throw, there would be no hope of victory. More and more cracks appeared on his body. At this moment, Yi Chun was like a human-shaped porcelain that could shatter at any moment. Strands of flames spurted out from those cracks, and upon closer inspection, one could see that these flames were actually formed from tiny runes. These runes were even smaller than viruses, and they were arranged closely together. Each strand of flame was formed from millions upon millions of runes. It was enough to make one's scalp go numb. Bang! All of a sudden, one of Yi Chen's arms exploded, turning into ashes and disappearing. I have to say, you're the craziest genius I have ever seen. You're not in a desperate situation, yet you dare to gamble with your life. But in my opinion, craziness also means stupidity. This kind of person usually doesn't live long. The Troll Emperor stood in the distance and watched calmly. He had no intention of attacking. There was no expression of pain on Yi Chen's face. He calmly said, "This isn't a gamble, because I will succeed. Rules are used to restrict people, but they can also be broken by others, let alone these incomplete rules. I don't want to argue with you. Let the truth tell us who is right and who is wrong." The Troll Emperor sneered. "Pah!" Yi Chen's other arm was also destroyed. This was a complete destruction from the inside out. Bang, 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 bang. Like a chain reaction, both of Yi Chen's legs and torso were destroyed. In the end, only Yi Chen's head was left, and this head was covered in cracks. Every inch of his body had tens of thousands of cracks. Even a single strand of hair had many cracks. The truth has proven that I am right. The Troll Emperor laughed loudly. "You are wrong." As he said these words, Yi Chen's head exploded. But strangely, a silver sphere didn't explode. It was round and without any dust. Everything in the world was reflected inside. Then, Yi Chen's entire life appeared inside. From the original world to the current world, every bit of Yi Chen's life was repeated in this silver sphere. It was as if he had experienced 2 lifetimes again. Buzz! The heaven and earth suddenly trembled. It was the resonance of the great Tao. In the next moment, 9 colored heavenly flowers fell from the sky. They were even more powerful than the 7 colored heavenly flowers. What? Who entered life and death realm? No, this is 9 colored heavenly flowers. This has never happened in Elysium before. After entering the life and death realm, heavenly flowers would fall from the sky. The lowest would be white flowers, followed by 3, 5, 7, and so on. In other words, the number of 7 colored flowers had already reached the bottom. It was impossible for 9 colored flowers to appear. At this moment, even in the midst of a life and death battle, the attention of everyone in true spirit world was still attracted by the 9 colored flowers. 9 colored heavenly flowers? This is the completion of the rules. Xianhou cried out in astonishment. From the palace spirit, Xianhou already knew that Elysium's rules were not complete. Therefore, only the most outstanding geniuses could cultivate to the first layer of life and death realm, with the highest not exceeding the second layer. Even if others knew the true cultivation method of life and death realm, they would not be able to condense a Tao gate. Forcibly condensing a Tao gate would only lead to their own destruction. As a peak first layer life and death realm, Xianhou naturally felt that the suppression of the rules on her Tao gate had decreased a lot. It should be known that when she condensed her Tao gate had almost collapsed. This was the backlash of the rules. The rules have actually improved a bit. In the conferred king palace, the palace spirit raised its head, its face full of astonishment and delight. Due to the special nature of the conferred king palace, the palace spirit couldn't leave the palace, and naturally couldn't participate in the battle. It could only watch as Elysium gradually fell. However, at this moment, it seemed to see a turning point. Look, the 9 colored heavenly flowers are coming from Yi Chen's direction. His direction has the most 9 colored heavenly flowers. Soon, someone noticed that the 9 colored flowers were the densest in Yi Chen's location. It was almost like a snowstorm formed by the flowers. Bathing in the 9 colored heavenly flowers, the silver light sphere unexpectedly started to breathe rhythmically. Although the faint breathing sound was not loud, it resonated with the entire sky. Impossible. He can't possibly break through to the third layer. The Troll Emperor was both shocked and furious as he punched toward the silver light sphere bathing in the 9-colored heavenly flowers. Why are you in such a hurry? A strand of formless sword light blocked the Troll Emperor's attack. The Troll Emperor retreated dozens of steps. Cracks appeared on his hand, and blood splashed everywhere. His pupils dilated, not knowing how Yichen attacked him. Swoosh! Swoosh! The sound of blood flowing was like a waterfall. At the same time, a human shadow appeared outside the silver light sphere. Then, with the human shadow as the frame, bones, flesh, internal organs, skin, and hair started to appear. In the blink of an eye, Yichen's body was formed. In the next second, the shocking sky cracked open on its own, and the endless yuan qi from the heaven and earth condensed into a yuan qi river, pouring into Yichen's head. The yuan qi river was endless, and it was hard to tell how much it had poured in within a second. Yichen's seemingly tiny body was like a black hole that could never be filled up. Meanwhile, Yichen's aura continued to rise. Third sky of life and death realm. Peak third sky of life and death realm. In one breath, Yichen reached the peak of the third layer of life and death realm. Not only was his Zhen Yuan several times thicker, but its purity had also reached a whole new level. Yichen even had a feeling that in terms of Zhen Yuan density, even diamonds might not be able to compare. However, the mysterious thing was that his Zhen Yuan was still in a liquid state, not a solid state. Indeed, the incomplete rules of the heaven and earth did not result in a complete backlash. Although most of my flesh and blood had been destroyed, there was still a trace of it that seemed to have no life force at all. However, it was also very dangerous this time. This trace of flesh and blood had already scattered in the heaven and earth, unable to be captured. It had almost been assimilated by the natural yuan qi. If it were not for the fact that I still had my consciousness and will, I would not have been able to recover. The secret of blood rebirth was that each and every cell had a will. As long as the will was not destroyed, the cell would not be destroyed. However, at that time, the fragmented will would dissipate without the control of the core will. At that time, it would depend on the strength of the core will. If the core was strong, it meant that the obsession was too deep. Even the rules couldn't completely erase it, as it had already left its mark in the heaven and earth. Yichen's was undoubtedly very powerful. The 7-step immortal sword intent itself had the power of immortality. Therefore, even if his body was destroyed, his sea of soul was not destroyed. The degree of threat was not even as high as when his body was destroyed by the Troll Emperor. At that time, even his sea of soul had been destroyed, and he hadn't reached blood rebirth yet. Of course, just the sea of soul was not enough. If all his cells were destroyed, Yichen would have no choice but to take over. Right now, my cultivation base is close to 20,000 years. Moreover, each and every one of my cells contains the 5th-step immortal sword intent, which is equivalent to a 6-step sword intent. In terms of body strength, even a 6-step spirit body would not be able to reach my level. 6th-step spirit body represented the strength of the cells themselves. In Yichen's case, his cells were still at the 5th-step spirit body level, but they contained the 5th-step immortal sword intent. It was like wearing a layer of armor, and its defense surpassed the cells of a 6th-step spirit body. In the future, if he met someone much stronger than Yichen, the opponent might only be able to tear him into pieces, but not turn him into a bloody mist. If he met an opponent at the same level, even if Yichen didn't retaliate, the opponent would only be able to leave some marks on his body. This was already somewhat similar to the sword body. Of course, the sword body was not only powerful in terms of defense, but it could also transform the Zhen Yuan within the body into sword Yuan. There are some differences between the two. So what if you've broken through to the third sky of life and death realm? My demonic power is boundless for you. How are you going to kill me? The Troll Emperor calmed down. Is that so? Swish! With a wave of his hand, the demon-slaughtering sword appeared in Yichen's hand as he slashed at the Troll Emperor. Chapter 10:16 Boom! Yi Qin's sword attack was the third movement of the vibrational sword spell, the Sky Absolute Sword. As soon as the sword was shot out, the sky and earth resonated. It was so fast that it was close to teleportation. The Troll Emperor only saw the sword light flashing in front of his eyes. The next moment, his body was cut in half. His body kept shaking, and then with a bang, he turned into blood mist. The sword light from the Sky Absolute Sword contained a vibrating power that was not much stronger than before. However, no one knew whether it was a coincidence or not, but the vibrating power on the sword light matched the vibrating power of the sky and earth, which caused his body to be unable to bear it. After being split in half, his body exploded into blood mist. Autumn Water. After throwing out a sword attack, Yi Qin's second sword attack followed right after. This sword attack was the fourth movement of the Autumn Water Sword spell. The surreal space was sparkling, and the moonlight was shattered. The water-like sword light landed right in the middle of the blood mist. Then it exploded out in all directions like a water thunder. The tiny spiral-shaped sword chi killed the blood mist in the surroundings, destroying the willpower within it. Merciless water and fire. Before the power of the second sword attack could fully spread out, Yi Qin's third sword attack came. This time, it was the destructive, merciless water and fire. Both swords were thrown out horizontally and vertically, and a green cross-shaped sword screen shot out. The sky and the earth seemed to be divided into 4 parts. The blood mist was also divided into 4 parts. With the cross-shaped sword screen as the origin, the horrifying fusion power of water and fire swept out. The fusion power of water and fire contained the coldness of water and the violent heat of fire. The fusion process was also the process of collision. Together with the destructive sword intent, it explained the meaning of destruction and doomsday. That area became an energy black hole, swallowing everything it could. Moment of glory. In the end, Yi Qin's strongest sword attack came. His body leaned forward, and Yi Qin was like a peerless sword. He and the sword became one, flying towards the energy black hole. When he got close to the energy black hole, the powerful, space-stopping power immediately froze everything. Even the uncontrollable energy black hole stopped moving. Shoo! Like a feather, Yi Qin's sword pierced through the energy black hole, and then he retreated. As he flew back, the space-stop effect weakened, so it looked like Yi Qin was getting faster and faster, as if the whole world was expanding. It might have been a moment, or it might have been a long time. The energy black hole burst out a strong light that surpassed that of the sun. The solid light instantly filled the area within a radius of tens of thousands of miles, then hundreds of thousands of miles, then millions of miles. The scene near the heavenly gaze sea was still gloomy and bleak a moment ago, but after a thousandth of a second, everything within a radius of millions of miles was filled with the strong light. Everyone's shadows were stretched infinitely until their shadows and bodies were swallowed by the strong light. Only Yi Qin himself was still clearly visible in the strong light. When the strong light touched his body, it immediately bounced back. Rumble. After a long time, an earth-shattering explosion finally rang out. No one could describe how terrifying this explosion was. It was like the sound of heaven and earth being destroyed, or like the first clap of thunder when the world was formed. It could shake all living things to death, but could also wake all living things up from their slumber. What's going on? Being swallowed by the strong light, everyone stopped fighting. They wanted to use their soul force to sense, but the closer they got to the center of the explosion, the more their soul force became fragmented. The strong light lasted for a long time, more than the time it took to drink half a cup of tea. Under everyone's patience, the strong light finally dissipated strand by strand. The gloominess and bleakness in the world seemed to be swallowed by this strong light, and everything became clear again. What a shocking aura! Before, when Yi Qin summoned the 9-colored sky flower, everyone naturally knew that it was caused by the battle between Yi Qin and the Troll Emperor. But now, they only saw Yi Qin, not the Troll Emperor. Moreover, the aura on Yi Qin's body was frighteningly powerful. It wasn't that this aura was boundless, but that it was too sharp. It was as if it was formed by millions of tiny swords shooting out in all directions. Soul Force tried to sense Yi Chun, but it was instantly sliced into pieces. They couldn't sense Yi Chun himself, and could only tell who it was from the special aura. As the cause of all this, Yi Chun frowned. Still can't kill him? No wonder in ancient times, many foreign race experts could only be sealed and not killed. This troll emperor's cultivation had been suppressed by two heavens, and his essence, energy, and soul hadn't recovered yet. He's still in a weak state. I'm afraid that before he was sealed, his strength was at the same level as Senior Yuan Emperor. But I've more or less understood this demon's cultivation. He's already reached the hundreds of thousands of years level. Compared to my true Yuan, his demonic energy is indeed endless. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, a ripple appeared in the void, and dozens of broad, bean-sized meatballs squeezed out of the space. Yi Chun could tell with a single glance that these bean-sized meatballs had an astonishing quality. Their density even surpassed extreme grade metals, which was the result of extreme compression. The blood and chi power emitted by one bean-sized meatball was more powerful than 10,000 ordinary people combined. The meatballs condensed like lightning, and then suddenly expanded, turning into the image of the Troll Emperor. The Troll Emperor pointed at Yi Chun, his face full of shock and anger. The other's attack had wiped out 1/3 of his cultivation. It had to be known that his demonic energy had reached the hundreds of thousands of years level, which was equivalent to those demons with heaven realm cultivation methods bitterly cultivating for tens of thousands of years. Moreover, he had condensed part of the blood mist at the critical moment, forming many meatballs and then crazily compressing them. This way, the destructive power would be evenly distributed on the meatballs, and the more compact they were, the smaller they would receive. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to guarantee that he would be able to survive. Times have changed. You should be aware of this. At this moment, be it defense or offense, Yi Chun had surpassed his opponent. Previously, he was barely at the level of 7 stars. Of course, the increase in his strength was not entirely due to his cultivation base reaching the 3rd layer of life and death realm. It was also related to his body. Every single cell in his body contained the 5th step Immortal Sword Intent. Even without using Zhen Yuan or Core Sword Intent, he could kill an ordinary life and Death King with a single punch. The powerful Sword Intent contained within his cells allowed Yi Chun's control over his strength to reach the pinnacle. Not even the slightest bit could escape his senses. This kind of feeling was akin to a punch that could deal twice the damage. His mind and body were one, and he could erupt with all his might. Therefore, it was still the same sword art, but after the fine control of Zhen Yuan, its might had greatly increased. This was already far beyond the realm of Minute's subtlety. Minute's subtlety meant that one could see very clearly, but it didn't mean that one could do it that well. A drop of water might seem ordinary, but if its power could be completely aroused, its might would be astonishing. This was precisely the so-called turning the rotten into the magical. Yi Chun couldn't help but recall a saying. The human body was originally a small world with boundless potential. You might think that you had used up all of your potential, but the deeper potential had yet to be unearthed. External strength could be cultivated, and internal strength could also be cultivated. However, this kind of cultivation was not systematic and could only be aroused by one's will. Lu Xiaoyou's life-burning sword and Dugu Ju's blade, filled with grief and indignation, were both manifestations of potential bursting out. However, they couldn't control it and could only act according to their instincts. Very good. You should be proud of being able to force me to this extent. However, I, Troll Emperor, also have some tricks that I haven't used yet. I like to see if you can withstand my full power fist. Sucking in a deep breath, Troll Emperor's eyes turned extremely cold. Boom! The heavens and earth shook. Troll Emperor's body leaned forward, as though he was about to throw a punch. A shocking scene occurred. In front of Yi Chun, another Troll Emperor suddenly appeared, and a fist was aimed at Yi Chun's chest. This kind of method could no longer be described with words. Speed was meaningless in front of him. Yi Chen's eyes revealed traces of shock, but he quickly calmed down. Actually, with the state of no sword in his hand and no sword in his heart, he could block this fist. However, he wanted to test the extent of his defense. Boom! A sound like that of a drum rang out. A huge circle of ripples spread out, and Yi Chen's entire body was sent flying. However, the Troll Emperor's expression was extremely ugly. This punch only left a shallow fist mark on Yi Chen's chest. Before this, although Yi Chen could exchange countless blows with him without suffering any damage, that was the result of brute force. Yi Chen had never taken a single punch from him. Attacking against attacking and being attacked were two different concepts. The difference in damage received was like heaven and earth. I don't believe it. The Troll Emperor threw another punch. This time, the Troll Emperor far behind him disappeared, and in front of Yi Chen, a new Troll Emperor appeared. In other words, this ultimate move of the Troll Emperor could only be used by two people. It was impossible for three Troll Emperors to appear at the same time. This punch, the Troll Emperor, was aimed at Yi Chen's head. I don't have the hobby of being beaten. With the demon-slaying sword horizontally, Yi Chen borrowed the opponent's strength to deflect the opponent's fist and hit the air. Poochie! Following that, Yi Chen's sword fell, and the Troll Emperor's body was split into two. However, with two Troll Emperors existing at the same time, Yi Chen's sword could not hurt the Troll Emperor unless he could hit both of them. There's not enough time. Let's kill the other Demon Kings first. With a thought, a sharp sword slashed towards the Troll Emperor. This was the 9 return to 1 sword technique. With Yi Chen's current use of strength, the Imperial Sword technique was enough to entangle the opponent, while his main body could escape. His body instantly disappeared, and Yi Chen appeared near an Elysium King and 3 Demon Kings. Without even looking, Yi Chen swung his sword and left. Poochie Poochie! The 3 Demon Kings completely disappeared. In the next moment, another 2-meter Demon King fell in another place. And then, in a short period of time, Yi Chen killed dozens of Demon Kings. Not a single Demon King was a match for his sword. Although he did not have Su Jing's crushing AoE killing ability, in terms of efficiency, he far surpassed Su Jing, because whether it was a 4-star Demon King, a 5-star Demon King, or even a 6-star demon, the result was the same. There was no difference. 1 man and 1 sword. Yi Chen completed a beautiful turn. Chapter 10:17. No, all the Devil Kings were frightened by Yi Chen's strength. With his speed, it wouldn't take long for him to kill all of them. The so-called occupation of Elysium and enslavement of Elysium was nothing more than a joke in front of him. Immediately, they were all stupefied. Powerful, this is true power. With a single person's strength, he overturned the entire battle. Jailer's eyes shone. In truth, as a king who had lived for a long time, he didn't care how many kings Elysium had. Unless the number of Elysium's kings could be multiplied by several folds, it was meaningless. What he cared about was whether there was an absolutely powerful character in Elysium. It was like raising goo. Countless goo worms would devour each other until a goo king was born. The value of this goo king would far surpass all the goo worms consumed. Without a doubt, Yi Chen was this goo king. He alone could accomplish what all the others combined couldn't. In other words, he alone was equivalent to hundreds or thousands of kings. This didn't mean that Yi Chen alone could contend against hundreds or thousands of kings. Rather, in a group battle, Yi Chen could kill so many kings and no one could stop him. The current Yi Chen was equivalent to a titled monarch in ancient times. With him, Elysium would have the cornerstone to win against the other races. Kill. 3 6-star Devil Kings and 15 5-star Devil Kings joined hands and attacked. They couldn't ignore Yi Chen, who had killed too many Devil Kings. In just a short while, they had already lost more than 50 Devil Kings. Yi Chen's figure was light and nimble, but the feeling he gave off was exceptionally sharp. Sword lights crisscrossed the void, and with each flash, several Devil Kings would be killed. After 5 sword strikes, only 1 6-star Devil King remained. However, When Yi Chun turned around, this six-star Devil King's body suddenly disintegrated, turning into a pile of ash. Boom, 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 boom. In the sky, hundreds of different colored light beams shot toward Yi Chun. These were the attacks of the puppet battleships. Any one of them could kill an ordinary Peak King. This was a killing power that had been accumulated for a long time. Unfortunately, in Yi Chun's eyes, these hundreds of light beams were full of holes. After all, puppet battleships were puppet battleships. They needed people to control them. In terms of details, they couldn't achieve the same level of precision. These hundreds of light beams seemed to attack Yi Chun at the same time, but in fact there were still some in front and some behind, and there were blind spots. Yi Chun only used one sword strike against the hundreds of light pillars with astonishing momentum. Bang! The first light pillar to attack Yi Chun was deflected by the devil-slaying sword, and as if it was refracted, it collided with another light pillar. Soon after, a scalp-numbing scene occurred, like a chain reaction, or as if Yi Chun had already calculated countless times. The second light pillar changed its trajectory after colliding with the third light pillar. The third light pillar blocked the fourth light pillar, and the fourth light pillar cut the fifth and sixth light pillars in half. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, all the light pillars lost their trajectory and exploded in the sky. At first glance, one would think that there was an invisible maze in the void. These light pillars entered the maze and madly exploded, but they couldn't reach the end, Yi Chun's position. In the puppet battleships, all the demons looked at Yi Chun as if they were looking at a ghost. One sword strike had destroyed the combined attack of hundreds of puppet battleships. Could it not be so exaggerated? Didn't this mean that the puppet battleships were just toys in the eyes of the opponent? Pung, pung, pung. Suddenly, a large number of puppet battleships exploded. It turned out that many of the light pillars had changed their trajectories time and time again and shot into the sky. Although a lot of energy had been consumed while changing their trajectories, these light pillars had also fused with the energy of other light pillars. The puppet battleships naturally couldn't block them. Invincible! On the true spirit world side, everyone was wild with joy. Yi Chun's strength had already surpassed their imaginations. Although his strength had yet to reach the level of monarchs in ancient times, his techniques were simply unimaginable. They were very clear on how powerful the light beams from those puppet battleships were. Under normal circumstances, a single light beam would be enough to shatter the body of a weaker king. But, after accumulating power, it would have the destructive power to kill an ordinary Peak King. Yi Chun had only used one sword strike to resolve all the dangers. It could be said that his technique was miraculous. The current him is no longer in existence that can be killed by numbers. Shenhe also saw this scene. Roaming in the void, Yi Chun killed more and more Devil Kings. From a few dozen to 100, and then to 200, and then beyond 200. Originally, there were more than 500 Devil Kings, but now, only half remained. Yi Chun's existence was practically a nightmare for devils. Each and every one of them was incomparably terrified and had lost all morale. This couldn't be blamed on them. Since they could fight until now, they were naturally not afraid of death. However, the opponent was simply too powerful to the point where they couldn't muster up any fighting spirit. For example, if the Elysium didn't have Yi Chun, just the Troll Emperor alone would be able to kill Elysium's morale completely. On the battlefield, the general commanded the entire army. However, if the general himself was an invincible existence and led the soldiers in a killing spree, the morale of the soldiers would soar, while the enemy would naturally be routed. It was the same logic. All puppet battleships leave. At this moment, the Troll Emperor's voice resounded. Swoosh! Swoosh! Hearing his words, the less than 200 remaining puppet battleships simultaneously flew away. With Yi Chun present, they wouldn't be of much use and could only add to the losses. It should be known that the value of each puppet battleship was astonishing. If all 400 of them were lost, even if they won this battle, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Everyone, listen up. Our fiend ancestral tree is about to descend. Elysium's doomsday is close at hand. At that time, even 10 Yi Chun won't be enough to kill you. The Troll Emperor's voice was extremely cold and full of killing intent. The fiend ancestral tree is about to descend. Haha, there's hope. As long as the fiend ancestral tree descends, I'll be able to recover to the 5th layer of life and death realm, coupled with the demon's martial arts, who will be my opponent. That's right. Who cares about Yi Chun? If we weren't suppressed, not to mention 10 Yi Chun, even 20 or 30 Yi Chun wouldn't be enough for us to kill. Hearing the news of the fiend ancestral tree's imminent arrival, the remaining demon kings were all incomparably excited. Soon after, their sinister gazes landed on Yi Chun. In their eyes, Yi Chun was already a dead man. Humph! Although the losses are great, as long as we capture the Elysium and complete the mission that the demons have failed to accomplish for hundreds of thousands of years, the higher-ups will still reward me greatly and won't punish me. The Troll Emperor didn't care about the casualties of the demon kings. What he cared about was whether he could capture the Elysium or not. Is the fiend ancestral tree about to descend? Su King's eyes were filled with regret. He didn't regret targeting the Chaos Demon Sea, but he regretted letting the Demon Flower Emperor summon the Demon Space. If the Demon Space hadn't been summoned, it wouldn't have been so easy for the demons to find the Demon Space. Now, everything was too late. He was very clear about the consequences of the fiend ancestral tree's arrival. In fact, whether the Demon Space was summoned or not, the demons could still find it. It was just that it would take a lot of time. Moreover, if they couldn't find the Demon Space, the demons wouldn't have attacked the Elysium so early. Delaying it for 1 or 2 years wouldn't change the result. After all, while Yi Chun was strong, the Troll Emperor's spirit was also recovering from the seal. Whether it was good or bad, no one knew. What should come has finally come. The Demon Flower Emperor sighed, a bitter smile appearing on his face. In an instant, the morale of the Elysium's side fell. They couldn't imagine how powerful their opponents would be once the fiend ancestral tree descended. Yi Chun, you're dead meat. Tagula, will be the first to kill you. A 6-star devil shouted at Yi Chun. I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Yi Chun's expression turned even colder. His whole body swept over, annihilating the opponent. Kill! Kill! The only thing Yi Chun could do now was to kill more demon kings. As for what would happen next, he couldn't care less. He would do his best and leave the rest to fate. Kill! The other kings of the Elysium also reacted. Who cared about the future? Since they were going to die anyway, killing a few more demon kings before they died was a good thing. The demons and demon kings originally had the advantage in terms of numbers, but after Yi Chun killed half of them, they were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. They only had 200 people, while the Elysium side had more than 250 demon kings. Half of them were underground demon kings. With Yi Chun constantly reducing the number of demon kings, they started a real counterattack for the first time. Demon kings fell one after another. Unable to gain the advantage in terms of numbers, the Elysium side finally became stronger. Not only did they have an unparalleled existence like Yi Chun, but they also had the golden dragon, Su Jing. Apart from that, the 6-star devils also had Murong Qingchong, Xianho, Jailer, Diviju, Su King, and the underground tribe's grand patriarch, the white-haired old man, and the brown-clothed old man. Other than the fact that their low-end combat strength was slightly inferior, in terms of high-end combat strength, the Elysium was above the demons. No! After the cursed Demon Emperor, another heavyweight of the demons fell. It was the Lord of Fear. He died under the joint attack of Yi Chun and the white-haired old man. With just one joint attack, the Lord of Fear completely disappeared. There's no time to lose. Let's join hands and kill the Troll Emperor. The white-haired old man suggested. All right, Yi Chun nodded. It would be extremely difficult for him to kill the Troll Emperor alone. If the white-haired old man cooperated with him, it should be much easier. However, at this moment, the space above the sea suddenly collapsed into billions of pieces. A huge ancient tree that connected the sky and the earth descended from the sky, taking root in the seabed. This was an ancient tree that emitted boundless demonic chi. It was much more terrifying than the demonic energy source. Its trunk was several hundred li thick and several thousand li tall. Its huge shadow shrouded the world. The demon ancestral tree had descended. Chapter 10:18. The demon ancestral tree of us, the demons, has finally descended. This time, who can stop us? The demons stop us? Kill anyone who dares to stop us. The descent of the demon ancestral tree had caused the demon kings to enter a state of extreme excitement, almost to the point of insanity. There were several times when the overall situation was in their grasp, but the tables were turned several times. After experiencing countless twists and turns, in the end, victory still belonged to the demons, belonged to them. This was supreme glory. Haha, Blackstone, you died so early, but Nine Nether survived. This is your misfortune, but my fortune. Nine Nether Demon laughed so hard that he was about to cry. Previously, he was chased by the Dragon King and Xianho. Now, he was hiding far away from Yichun. As a proud demons, Nine Nether felt that he was about to suffocate. He wished he could immediately restore his cultivation realm and kill everyone. This day has finally come. The giant Devil Emperor looked up at the sky. Aside from excitement and joy, there was also a strong sense of savagery. Not good. Everyone in Elysium looked at the giant ancient tree that had suddenly appeared. This ancient tree was abnormally huge. It was thousands of miles tall and had already pierced through the 3 layers of heaven. The crown of the tree was open, and the 3 layers of heaven couldn't close. No, the 3 layers of heaven seemed to be afraid of the giant ancient tree and retreated far away, exposing the starry sky to everyone's sight. For the first time, the starry sky was so close to the ground, so clear. The ancient tree was different from ordinary trees. The trunk and branches were covered with black scales. These black scales opened and closed as if they were breathing, and in the center of the trunk, there was a giant demon face. Its eyes were blood red, filled with anger and violence. On the branches, the leaves were bigger than humans. These leaves were pitch black and had complicated veins on the surface. These veins would make ordinary people dizzy just by looking at them. They contained the great Tao, contained the rules, and endless demon power flowed through the veins. The entire ancient tree was emitting a black light. Wherever the demonic light shone, the rules of Elysium all retreated. There was only one kind of rule there, and that was the rule of demons. Rolling demon energy spread in all directions. Not to mention around the ancient tree, even the starry sky was contaminated with a large amount of demon energy. This was the demon ancestral tree, the supreme holy relic of demons. The rule of demons has a limited range. Continue to kill. A roar awakened everyone in true spirit world. Everyone could see that Yi Chen's killing speed had become even faster. Before the crimson sword light could disperse, Yi Chen had already dashed toward another person. With a sudden glance, the void was sliced into arcs by the crimson sword light, and the arcs were filled with demon kings of the demon race. Yi Chen is right. The rule of demons can't affect this place. Kill. Kill as many as you can. Stop them from approaching. Everyone reacted, and their eyes turned red. At this moment, it was truly a moment of life and death. Letting a single demon king escape would be a huge disaster for them. They couldn't let a single one escape. Even if they had to risk their lives, they had to stop them. In desperate straits, one's potential would burst forth. Some ordinary life and death kings had already exhausted their potential. But in this crisis, their potential would surge forth once again. Each and every move of theirs would be carried out to their heart's content. Their might was several times greater than before, and even doubled. However, they all ignored the changes in their bodies, and only knew to kill. Either the enemy died, or they died. There was no other choice. I can't accept this. The demon ancestral tree is right in front of me. Why am I dying at this moment? Demon kings fell one after another. Before their deaths, they roared in unwillingness. The demon ancestral tree was, after all, only a single tree. It couldn't be more powerful than the entire Elysium. It could only affect an area of several 100,000 li. Only in that area could the rule of demons exist. Outside of that area, there was still the rule of Elysium. At this moment, the place where everyone was fighting was millions of li away from the demon ancestral tree. It seemed as if something was preventing the demon ancestral tree from descending. The reason why they could instantly see the demon ancestral tree was because the demon ancestral tree was too big, and the ripples it emitted were also too frightening. 9 Nether, you can die now. Seeing 9 Nether Demon King, Yichun instantly changed his flight path and flew toward him. Yichun, you can't kill me. I can't die. 9 Nether was shocked and frantically tried to escape. It had to be said that he did have some ability. Although his strength was only at the 5-star level, he was extremely slippery. Many of the kings of Elysium who wanted to stop him were thrown off by him. Unfortunately, his opponent was Yichun. In just 2 blinks of an eye, Yichun had intercepted him. Yichun, we can talk. If you can spare my life. Before 9 Nether could finish his words, a deep red sword mark appeared on his body. It was neat and tidy from head to toe. The next moment, 9 Nether's body exploded and turned into ashes. What is there to talk about with you? Yichun's voice was illusory, and he had already disappeared from his original spot. The descent of the demon ancestral tree didn't slow down the rate of the demon king's deaths. Instead, it accelerated. A moment ago, there were still more than 200 demon kings, but a moment later, there were less than 150 demon kings. However, a third of them were killed by Yichun and a fifth by Su Jing. The other powerful 6-star kings of Elysium had also killed many demon kings. As for those below 6-star, the total number of demon kings they killed was very small. This couldn't be blamed on them. Even if they had the advantage in numbers, it was still very difficult for them to kill their opponents at the same level. It was the same logic as before when the demon kings wanted to kill them. Originally, Yichun had planned to join forces with the white-haired elder to kill the Troll Emperor. Unfortunately, the Troll Emperor seemed to know their plan. As soon as the two of them killed the Lord of Fear, the Troll Emperor escaped far away. For a while, Yichun couldn't catch up to him. After all, they were separated by more than 1,000,000 miles. Once the Troll Emperor's body grew to a size of several hundred miles, his speed would increase dramatically. Therefore, Yichun gave up on the idea of killing the Troll Emperor now. It would be fine as long as he didn't let the Troll Emperor get close to the demon ancestral tree. Lord Troll Emperor, we've come to help you. Right at this moment, 8 demon kings suddenly rushed out of the demon ancestral tree. The aura of these 8 demon kings was extremely frightening, even more frightening than the Troll Emperor. Among them, 5 were at the peak of the 5th layer of life and death realm, while the other 3 were at the 6th layer of life and death realm. They had completely recovered, and the Elysium couldn't suppress them anymore. They were wearing battle armors made of black leaves, which seemed to counteract the suppression of the Elysium's rules. The demon ancestral tree was unsealed by them. Even before the Troll Emperor escaped, they had already found the demon space and started to arrange arrays, accumulating power. This accumulation took several years, and they only unsealed it today. Otherwise, nobody would have been able to undo the seal of the demon space, not even the Troll Emperor. The 8 demon kings aggressively flew over, and the hearts of the Elysium's people turned cold. Not to mention the 3 6th-layer demon kings. Just the 5 peak 5th-layer demon kings were equivalent to 5 7-star level demon kings. Moreover, they were at least high-grade 7-star level. 6th-layer demon kings were equivalent to 8-star battle strength. 8-star battle strength. What could they use to fight? Huff, huff, huff. However, an opportunity had arrived. 8 vines suddenly shot out of the seabed. These 8 vines were like huge dragons, coiling around the 8 demon kings. No matter how powerful they were, they couldn't break free from the vines' bindings. Even splitting their bodies didn't work. The vines seemed to contain the Great Tao's rules, locking onto their souls. In the blink of an eye, the 8 demon kings were dragged to the seabed. Immediately afterward, the seawater surged, and waves as high as 10,000 zhong soared into the sky. A colossus emerged from the seawater. It was also an ancient tree, a crimson-yellow tree. Its height was not inferior to that of the fiend demon ancestral tree. In fact, it was even taller. At the center of the ancient tree was a face. It was an extremely aged face, and one could see that there were countless pores on its trunk that were constantly breathing. This is the undying tree. Everyone's eyes widened. As far as they knew, only the undying tree could contend against the demon ancestral tree in Elysium. If the demon ancestral tree was the supreme relic of the demons, then the undying tree would be the supreme relic of Elysium. This was their first time seeing the undying tree. Ever since the ancient war, the undying tree had never shown itself. As the undying tree appeared, a thick vine was exposed, binding the demon ancestral tree from afar. It turned out that the reason the demon ancestral tree couldn't approach was because it was bound by the vine of the undying tree. The fact that the undying tree had actually appeared from the seabed was truly inconceivable. Only a few people knew that the roots of the undying tree covered more than half of Elysium. Its main body could travel underground and appear anywhere. Impossible! How could the undying tree revive? The Troll Emperor clearly knew about the undying tree as well. He also knew that the undying tree had been chopped off during the Ancient War. During the First War, Elysium was incomparably powerful, allowing them to come and go as they pleased. At that time, Ancient Emperor was a 9th layer life and death realm expert with monstrous battle strength. Therefore, among the experts dispatched by the demons and evil spirit race, there were also peerless 9th layer life and death realm experts. However, at that time, the world barrier of Elysium had been pierced through by the heavenly sword, and the rules had been leaked. Therefore, their realm would not be suppressed. The undying tree was chopped off by the 9th layer life and death realm experts of the demons. An ancient emperor had also destroyed the demon ancestral tree of the demons. As supreme relic, the demon ancestral tree and the undying tree were existences comparable to 9th layer life and death realm experts. Only experts of the same realm could heavily injure or even destroy them. Rumble. Countless vines fluttered in the sky, each of them several thousand li long. As they waved, the demon ancestral tree was forcibly sent flying even further away. The demon ancestral tree was clearly not to be trifled with. It crazily collided with the undying tree. Demonic chi overflowed and demonic clouds surged. That powerful demonic light burned the branches of the undying tree. Chapter 1019. Truly frightening. The appearance of the undying tree made Yi Chun heave a sigh of relief. But the battle between the demonic ancestral tree and the undying tree made him smack his lips. Although the demonic ancestral tree had once been destroyed, and this one had grown later after hundreds of thousands of years, even if the demonic ancestral tree hadn't reached its peak, it wouldn't be far from reaching the 8th layer of life and death realm. On the other hand, the undying tree was the same as the demonic ancestral tree, having been chopped off by a peerless demon's expert in the ancient era. After sleeping for countless years, it should have recovered quite a bit of Yuan Qi. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to tie down the demonic ancestral tree. The battle between the two was at least at the 8th layer of life and death realm. The scene was indescribable. At least, Yi Chen knew that even the slightest shockwave would be enough to kill him. Apart from this, the bodies of the two were too huge. They were thousands of li tall and hundreds of li thick. Su Jing's dragon body might not be any shorter than the two, but it was much more slender. Moreover, Su Jing's battle strength would drop after becoming bigger. But the two ancient trees clearly didn't have such a thing, because they were their true bodies. How could their battle strength be weakened when using their true bodies? Crack! Crack! The battle between the two ancient trees affected an unimaginable range. In the sky, tens of thousands of li-long spatial cracks would appear from time to time. The boundless ocean also became turbulent because of their battle, reaching the 9 heavens. The ocean beasts within this range were out of luck. Under the battle between the two terrifying existences, they were all instantly killed. Unfortunately, they didn't have much intelligence. If they did, They would have escaped to other oceans to avoid calamity during the battle between the alien races and Elysium. Countless years later, this vast ocean was still deathly still. No living creature could survive here, because the demons and Elysium's laws were intertwined together, capable of destroying all living things. But it was also because of this that countless treasures and ores had appeared here, turning this place into one of the most frightening forbidden zones. Of course, this was a story for the future. Due to the appearance of the undying tree, the demons gave up on the idea of approaching the demon ancestral tree. Going there now was no doubt that they would be seeking death. As long as they did not get close, they would be turned into ashes by the aftermath of the battle between the two. If they couldn't get close to the demon ancestral tree, they wouldn't be able to accept the demon's rules. This made the demon kings feel disheartened. Were they still going to lose this war? Every time the situation seemed to be in their grasp, the tables would be turned. When the abyssal ancestral tree had descended, they had been happy for a while, but they had never imagined that the tables would be turned again. Unless the demonic ancestral tree could defeat the undying tree, no one would be able to stop the demonic ancestral tree. Anyone in front of it would be trash, unable to withstand a single blow. However, the battle between the demon ancestral tree and the undying tree would not end in a short time. Would they still be there when it ended? The Yi Chen's hands were stained with the blood of their demon kings. Several hundred demon kings had died at his hands before the abyssal ancestral tree and the undying tree decided a victor. He could completely annihilate them. How could this be? The Troll Emperor's eyes were dazed, filled with bewilderment. After planning for such a long time, it still couldn't beat all sorts of accidents. Yi Chen's continuous growth, the stronger he encountered, and the sudden appearance of the undying tree. These were all things he hadn't expected. Just as the Troll Emperor was in a daze, a sharp sword flew over. The Troll Emperor was startled and hurriedly turned his body. However, the speed of the sword was too fast, and his right arm was instantly severed from the shoulder. This wasn't the end. The sharp sword soared into the sky, and when it came down, it turned into 64 sword images. These sword images formed an 8 trigrams diagram, covering the Troll Emperor. You want to trap me? Don't even think about it. The Troll Emperor's anger and unwillingness erupted. He punched the 8 trigram sword formation. The vast and ferocious fist energy caused the 8 trigrams sword formation to show signs of collapsing before it even landed. Between the sword images, sparks flew and clanging sounds rang out. The spatial barrier was instantly burned into countless tiny black holes. Dimensional shift. Far away, the white-haired old man formed a seal with both hands. His powerful will followed the completion of the seal, fluctuating violently. In an instant, the white-haired old man's right hand reached out, as if he had grabbed something. Slowly but firmly, he retracted his hand. Gotcha! A terrifying scene occurred. The Troll Emperor and the space he was in were directly cut off, and then shifted in the direction of the white-haired old man and Yi Chen. Every time it flickered, it would travel more than 200,000 li. Unfortunately, it was only a single flicker. After another flicker, the Troll Emperor collapsed the space that was cut off and flew in the opposite direction. Troll Emperor, since you're here, why leave? While using the 9 return to 1 sword art and the 8 trigrams extermination sword art to entangle the Troll Emperor, Yi Chen had already approached. Soon after, the white-haired old man used some unknown secret art and dragged the Troll Emperor over. The distance between the two decreased by another 200,000 li. At this moment, Yi Chen had already arrived in the sky above the Troll Emperor. The Troll Emperor crazily roared. This kind of roar was filled with the unwillingness of a hero who had no way out. If he, the Troll Emperor, could recover to his peak, he would never be afraid of anyone. Although he was not one of the best among the 7th Life and Death Realm warriors, he still had a great reputation. But now, he was being chased by a mere 7-star genius. Humiliation, unwillingness, and hatred filled his heart, igniting a demonic flame on his body. Fiend Progenitor Tree, you have arrived. As the supreme sacred object of our fiend tribe, spread your power across the heavens and earth. Our fiend tribe should not be defeated again. The Troll Emperor's voice came from his soul and spread out fiercely. Several million li away, the demon ancestral tree seemed to have heard the Troll Emperor's voice. Its black leaves rustled, and in the next moment, countless leaves automatically fell off, shooting toward the Troll Emperor's direction. Air-piercing sounds were like millions of locusts covering the sky and covering the earth. Crackle. The undying tree no longer attacked the demon ancestral tree. Countless vines crisscrossed in the air, forming an inescapable net in the void. As soon as the black leaves were hit by the vines, they immediately turned into ashes. However, there were too many of them. No matter how dense the net was, there were still some that slipped through. Those that slipped through the net were less than 1% of the total number of leaves. But at a glance, there were at least millions of them. They broke free from the undying tree's blockade and flew out in a dense mass. The momentum of the black leaves was too great, and everyone noticed them. Haha, this is the leaf of the demon ancestral tree. It contains the demon's rule. Although it's not even 1/10,000th of the demon ancestral trees, the demon ancestral tree is not far from here. With the demon ancestral tree's leaf protecting us, even if we can't increase our realm by 1 level, we can at least increase by half a level. Moreover, our demon's martial arts can be used freely, and we won't be suppressed. The demon kings were already in despair. There were less than 100 of them, and each demon king had to face 2 or 3 kings of Elysium. The situation had been reversed. Seeing the demon ancestral tree's leaf flying through the air, hope was ignited in their hearts. It's a never-ending battle. The demonic race had been tormented and had been turned around time and time again. How could the people of True Spirit World not be the same? No matter how stupid they were, they knew that the demonic ancestral tree's leaves could greatly increase the strength of the demonic race. Some Elysium kings tried to attack the black leaves, but these leaves had incomparable spirituality. They flickered a few times and dodged. Then, 12 leaves wrapped around a demon king, forming a black battle armor on their bodies. This is great. I've advanced from the 3rd layer to the peak of the 3rd layer. My consumed essence, chi, and soul have also been replenished. I don't have any injuries or weakness. Some demon kings were pleasantly surprised. If the harvest of these demon kings was already great, then the harvest of the Troll Emperor was even greater. The black battle armor on his body was composed of 36 leaves. Compared to the battle armors of other demon kings, the one on the Troll Emperor's body was even more majestic and tyrannical. Surging demonic power spread out with him as the center, looking extremely frightening. Good, worthy of the demon ancestral tree's leaf. The Troll Emperor laughed heartily. He was originally at the 5th layer of life and death realm. After wearing the black battle armor, his realm rose to the peak of the 5th layer, causing his demonic power to double. The demonic power he had lost before was completely replenished. Moreover, the essence, chi, and soul he had lost, due to being sealed for countless years, had also been completely restored. He was no longer in a weak state. Yi Chun didn't want to fight? Then let's fight. The Troll Emperor turned around, no longer running. The leaves of the demon ancestral tree not only helped the demon kings, but also helped the demon army on the gazing ocean. The Sea of Soul realm demons wore black battle armors composed of 3 leaves. The astral-reaching demons wore black battle armors composed of 1 leaf. Due to their low cultivation base, the suppression they received was also low. With the black battle armors on their bodies, their realm was no longer suppressed, and they were at their peak. Roar! The demon ancestral tree's leaves were limited, and the number of people who could obtain the black battle armors was also limited. Only 1/3 of the people had them. However, this was already enough. Like a black flood, the demon army was unstoppable. Wherever they went, blood and demonic chi filled the air. Are we going to die just like this? As the comrades beside her died one after another, Ji Xuan bit her lips, causing blood to flow out. Kill! More than 10 half-step demon kings charged at Ji Shuyan. Their frightening auras were several times stronger than before, as if they were aided by God. Among them, the most powerful one was a half-step demon king at the third layer of life and death chamber. As the auras approached, Ji Shuyan's protective Zhen Yuan shattered like tofu. Ji Shuyan closed her eyes. At this moment, even if her strength had increased by several times, it would be useless. This was a situation of certain death. Bang! Just as her body was about to shatter into pieces, a black sword light suddenly spread out with Ji Shuyan at the center. All the demons that came in contact with this sword light instantly turned into a bloody paste. Behind Ji Shuyan, a phantom appeared. This phantom was exactly the same as Yi Chun. Chapter 10:20. It turned out that what Yi Chun had shot into Ji Shuyan's Sea of Soul was a drop of Zhen Yuan containing a powerful sword intent. This drop of Zhen Yuan would only be activated at the moment of life and death. This drop of Zhen Yuan had been compressed, but Yi Chun didn't dare to compress it too much. After all, Zhen Yuan couldn't exist in one Sea of Soul. Even with the guidance of the sword intent, it was still extremely dangerous. However, Yi Chun's Zhen Yuan was not something ordinary kings could compare to. This was the second layer Zhen Yuan of life and death realm, combined with the peak 6-step destruction sword intent, not to mention those under life and death realm. Even famous kings wouldn't be able to kill Ji Shuyan. Apart from this drop of Zhen Yuan containing sword intent was different from the Zhen Yuan left in the soul sea of other kings. Their Zhen Yuan could only passively defend and couldn't actively attack. It was just like how Dragon King had left a strand of Zhen Yuan in Yi Chun's soul sea, which couldn't actively attack. However, sword intent was sword intent after all, and it had a powerful offensive nature. The destruction sword intent was even more so. Not only could it passively defend Ji Shuyan, it could also counterattack because for sword artists, offense was the best defense. The black sword light suddenly appeared, killing all the incoming half-step demon kings. Ji Shuyan stared blankly, then seemed to realize something. You've already saved me twice. In Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, Yi Chun had already saved her once. Since we meet again, it must be fate. Live well. This sword intent Zhen Yuan won't be continuously consumed. It will only be activated at the moment of life and death. Yi Chun's phantom behind Ji Shuyan spoke. Different from other people's Zhen Yuan, Yi Chun's sword intent Zhen Yuan was full of spirituality. It wouldn't be continuously consumed once it was activated. This way, it could save a person many times. As for being able to speak, it was because Yi Chun had imprinted this sentence into the sword intent Zhen Yuan in advance. It wasn't only Ji Shuyan. King phantoms appeared behind many people, such as Xuanhos, Demon Flower Emperors, Su Kings, Duga Jews, Dantai Ming Yuez, but most of them were Yi Chun's. Leaving a strand of Zhen Yuan in someone's sea of soul consumed a lot of energy. However, Yi Chun's soul power was 10 times that of ordinary kings, so he was somewhat unrestrained. Puff, 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 puff. Yin Jianwei, Dongfang Bai, and Lung Xinghan formed the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword array, which was invincible. Even if they encountered a half-step demon king, they could still fight. However, there were just too many of them, and many of them had their strength increased by several times. The Little Big Dipper 7-star sword array couldn't handle it and collapsed instantly. The 7 of them were drowned in the chi flow. However, in the next second, the chi flow bounced back, and 7 black arcs of sword light spread out in a fan shape. The many demons who were about to rush over were instantly chopped into meat paste. Since when did Master leave Zhen Yuan in our Sea of Soul? Dongfang Bai was shocked. So Big Brother has been protecting us all the time. Yi Xian and Yi Xiaoxiao were very touched. The reason why Yi Chun didn't let them know about the Zhen Yuan was because he was afraid that they would become careless and have a change of heart. Therefore, he only secretly shot the Zhen Yuan into their Sea of Soul. This way, in order to survive, they would have to use all their strength and stimulate their potential. However, they wouldn't be killed by the enemy. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It wasn't just them. Many people in the fallen Dust Sword sect had Yi Qin's Zhen Yuan in their Sea of Soul. However, they didn't know about it, and even Yi Qin's parents didn't know about it. I knew that Master couldn't bear for us to die. Huang Sume giggled. With her intelligence, she had actually guessed some of it, but she didn't dare to be sure. Because of this, she had searched in the Sea of Soul for a long time, trying to find some clues. Unfortunately, with her cultivation, how could she find Yi Qin's Zhen Yuan? Therefore, she wasn't too sure. Now, the truth had finally been revealed. Master has put in a lot of effort. Obviously, he hopes that we can stimulate our potential in the fierce battle and surpass ourselves. We shouldn't let him down. Yin Jianhui took a deep breath and said, "That's right." Lung Xinghan nodded. There was a huge difference between the Little Big Dipper 7-star sword formation and the Big Dipper 7-star sword formation. One required 7 people to set up, while the other required 49. The difference in power was more than 10 times. Therefore, the Big Dipper 7-star sword formation that Yi Tianhao and Shun Yuqing were in had never been broken. No matter how many enemies there were, no matter how powerful they became, the Big Dipper 7-star sword formation would be able to break them all. Of course, the reason why the Big Dipper 7-star sword formation was so powerful was because the swords in their hands were different. They were 7-star swords that Yi Chun had specially made for them, and every one of them was high rank. Semi-extreme rank swords would consume too much Zhen Yuan, and Yi Chun didn't have that many semi-extreme rank materials. Without going through a bloody battle, one would not be able to grow faster. After this huge battle, those who survive will all be the elites of our fallen Dust Sword sect. Yi Tianhao said slowly, "I hope this bloody battle will end soon." Shun Yuqing was a woman after all, and she couldn't help but feel sorry for them. Zhang Haoran, Luo Han's Han, Zhu Mei, and Yi Hai, who had just returned home before the battle. Many of them had Yi Qin's silhouette appearing behind their backs. Beams of black sword light were shooting out, seeming to be unstoppable. This was a bit like bullying, since Yi Qin's sword intent Zhen Yuan contained too much power. "Yi Qin, you are indeed mysterious." Luo Han's Han smiled. He didn't expect this kind of change at all. He and Zhu Mei were already prepared to die. In another area, "Thank you." Lynch thanked Zhang Haoran. Zhang Haoran forced a smile and said, "I should thank the leader." It was not him who had saved Lynch, but the sword intent Zhen Yuan in his soul ocean that belonged to Yi Chun. The battle in the sea gazing was extremely fierce, and the battle of the kings on the ocean had once again become intense. Nearly 100 demon kings were all wearing black battle armors, which increased their strength by several folds. The originally one-sided situation was now showing signs of turning around. Only a few people like Su Jing could still control the situation. As for Yi Qin's side, although the strength of the two sides was not as strong as the demon ancestral tree and the undying tree, the intensity of the battle was not inferior at all. Raising his cultivation to the peak of the 5th sky of life and death realm didn't bring much battle power to the Troll Emperor, but his spirit, chi, and soul had completely recovered, allowing him to display the power of the demon's martial arts. This increased the strength of the Troll Emperor by 8 folds, reaching the peak of 7-star level. At this moment, even if Yuan Emperor were to revive, he wouldn't be able to kill him easily. Boom! Boom! Yi Chun, I'll let you have a taste of a true demon's martial arts. Giant Devil Emperor punched Yi Chun again and again. On his fists, there was a tyrannical darkness, a blazing flash, and a scorching demonic flame at times. They were ever-changing, and their strength was ever-changing. The demon's martial arts are nothing more than this. Yi Qin's battle power was a minor level lower than the Troll Emperor's, only at the peak of 7-star. However, Yi Qin's sword art realm and control over power were not something the opponent could compare with. Even if the opponent attacked with 100% of his power, at least 50% would be neutralized by Yi Chun. On the other hand, when Yi Chun attacked with 100% of his power, the opponent could only attack with brute force. Illusion Demon Martial Art. The Troll Emperor once again displayed the previous demon's martial arts. With a punch, Another Troll Emperor appeared directly in front of Yichun. This illusion demon martial art was a secret technique of the demons. Only the demons could display it to the limit. The Troll Emperor had only grasped a part of its essence and was far from comprehending it completely. However, it was enough. Old trick. Yichun turned his long sword, and the Troll Emperor's fist deviated. However, at this moment, there was an unexpected situation. In the Troll Emperor's body, there was an illusion. The illusion was no different from the Troll Emperor. It threw a punch at Yichun. At this moment, Yichun had used up all his strength and had yet to generate new strength. The illusion grasped the timing perfectly, not a bit more, not a bit less. Fool, do you really think this move is so simple? In the distance, the Troll Emperor sneered. I told you, old trick. Yichun's expression did not change. The demon's slaughtering sword did not immediately return, but instead moved to the side at an even faster speed. Then, the hilt of the demon's slaughtering sword welcomed the incoming fist. It was obviously a sword hilt, but in Yichun's hands, it was no different from a real sword. It was still extremely sharp, and the sword aura was threatening. Moreover, it carried a deep tearing sensation. Pung! The fist and the sword hilt clashed. Yichun took 3 steps back, but he did not lose his stance. On the other hand, that illusion seemed to only have enough power for one attack before collapsing instantly. He blocked it. The Troll Emperor's pupils shrank. To be honest, he could no longer understand Yichun's realm. His battle power was obviously higher than his opponent's, so why was he unable to gain the upper hand? At his peak, as a life and death realm warrior, he could not understand the realm of someone weaker than him. It was simply a slap in his face. Roar! The Troll Emperor's body suddenly expanded, turning into a 100-li-tall giant demon. In terms of power control, he was being toyed in the palm of Yichun's hand. Therefore, he decided to suppress his opponent with absolute power. With his demonic power, he could transform into a 100-li-tall demon while still maintaining his peak battle power. Moreover, each of his moves covered an even larger area, making it impossible for Yichun to easily disperse his attacks. At the same time that the Troll Emperor enlarged, Yichun also enlarged. He naturally knew the benefits of enlarging. This way, the energy eruption would be even more violent. Although it would consume Zhang Yuan, it could completely suppress the opponent. If he continued to deal with Yichun with his normal height, he would only be asking for trouble. After all, how could he use a toothpick to push aside a mountain-sized fist? After enlarging, Yichun was 10 li tall, which was his limit. If he enlarged any further, his strength would drop. Just like that, a 100 li tall giant demon and a 5 li tall human once again clashed. The white-haired old man frowned as he glanced at the scene and quickly retreated. This level of battle was not something he could interfere in. Intent Kings were good at everything, but they could not enlarge. Chapter 10:21. Boom! A fist the size of a small mountain smashed towards Yichun. The majestic fist energy tore through the heavens and earth. Coupled with the Troll Emperor's 50-kilometer-tall body, it gave people the illusion that the sky was about to collapse. The demon-slaying sword in Yichun's hand also became several kilometers long, a true giant sword. Tightly gripping the demon-slaying sword in his hand, Yichun's wrist shook frequently, and rays of crimson sword light sprayed out. Thick spatial cracks spread wantonly surrounding the two of them. The two of them fought from the sky to the depths of the sea, and from the depths of the sea to the starry sky. Finally, they landed on a star with a diameter of more than 50,000 kilometers. This star was a dead star without any life. There was only dust and scorching radiation. From afar, other than the Troll Emperor, who could see a black dot, Yichun's figure was almost invisible. However, as the two of them fought, strong lights constantly flashed on the surface of the star. Every time it flashed, the star would tremble violently. The dust floating in the air was directly blown out of the atmosphere by the chi, causing the entire star to become clear. However, the price of clarity meant destruction. The surface of the star was covered in cracks, and flames burned the sky. In the next moment, the entire star broke into pieces and then violently exploded. As for the two of them, they had already moved to another place to continue fighting. The shockwave from a star's explosion did not affect them in the slightest. Yichun, it took me 100 years to create the 3 flowers borrowing the way, but it took me another 50 years to perfect it to its current state. Although you have studied it for a few years, and you have my guidance, under normal circumstances, it will take at least 3 to 5 years to cultivate the 3 flowers borrowing the way to the realm of great accomplishment. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You can take advantage of the continuous battle with the other party to accumulate essence, chi, and spirit, and break through to the realm of great accomplishment in one go. Yuan Emperor's voice sounded in Yi Chen's mind. All right, Yi Chen nodded. Before this, he had already trained the 3 flowers of the way to the initial realm. However, the initial realm could only increase his combat power by 50%, which was not enough to kill the Troll Emperor. Moreover, once the effects of the 3 flowers of the way ended, he would be weakened. Thus, he had not used it all this time, preferring to stimulate his potential over and over again. After all, once he was weakened, he would truly be finished. His opponent could easily kill him, and there would be no way for him to turn the tables. He could either not use the 3 flowers borrowing the way, or if he did, he would have to achieve great mastery in order to multiply his battle prowess. That way, he would have a chance to kill the Troll Emperor instead of being killed by him. However, it was simply too difficult to master the 3 flowers borrowing the way. Even with the guidance of its creator, the Yuan Emperor, it was impossible. After all, the latter had spent 150 years to create this secret technique. If he were to learn it, it would take him at least 5 to 10 years. Boom, boom. The aftermath of the battle was earth-shattering. Although Yi Chen's strength did not increase by much, if one were to observe carefully, one would notice that his essence, chi, and soul were increasing in a unique way. Since this kind of increase was extremely slow and not instantaneous, the Troll Emperor did not notice anything strange. Yi Chen, this time, you are dead for sure. I can fight with you for a month, but I wonder if you can last a month with your cultivation base? The black armor on the Troll Emperor's body had an extremely unique effect. It could actually absorb the Yuan Qi in the sky and convert it into demonic Qi. Although the process of converting demonic Qi into demonic power was extremely slow, it would still have a great effect after a long time. A battle between you and me does not need a month. 1 day is more than enough. Yi Chen said indifferently. Then just wait and see. The Troll Emperor sneered. The war on True Spirit Continent was in full swing, while the war on Sky Sword Continent could be said to be a bloodbath. The army of the evil spirit race was 1,000,000, while the army of Sky Sword Continent was 600,000. As for the kings, it was 500 versus 300. Many of the beast kings of Blood Sky Continent had gone to Sky Sword Continent instead of True Spirit Continent. Therefore, the number of kings here was not small. Compared to the evil spirit race, it was 60%. Adding the existence of the Sky Sword Continent, the sword artists of Sky Sword Continent could display extraordinary strength. 600,000 army was equivalent to 700,000 army, further making up for the difference. However, the evil spirit race was not to be trifled with. They launched an all-out attack as soon as they arrived, using 200 puppet battleships to bombard the army of Sky Sword Continent. Although they lost dozens of battleships in the end, they also killed nearly 1/5 of the army of Sky Sword Continent. Suddenly, the Sky Sword Continent was in a difficult situation. As for the high-level kings, Emperor Inshur was invincible. The number of kings of Sky Sword Continent that had died in his hands numbered in the dozens. The one blocking him now was an old monster of Sky Sword Continent, Old Ancestor Sky Sword. This old ancestor was a figure at the same level as Void Ancestor Jailer. He had lived in seclusion for hundreds of years, and his battle strength had reached the high 6-star level. However, it was obvious that he was not a match for Emperor Inshur. Emperor Inshur's strength was not weaker than the Lord of Fear at all. His battle strength had clearly reached the level of a 6-star Overlord. When he used the Eclipse Palm technique, It could swallow the sky and corrode the sun. It was extremely terrifying. Old Ancestor Sky Sword was only able to contend with his opponent for a while, because he had the home advantage. It was only a matter of time before he died. On the battlefield, the one with the most outstanding performance was, without a doubt, Snow Sword of Gojoseon. Ever since the Great Battle, his strength had made successive breakthroughs, and he had already surpassed his master, Snowflake Sword Emperor. Even Blue Cloud Sword Emperor was inferior to him by quite a bit. Next was Star Sword King. Star Sword King's 7-star point kill sword art had not only cultivated it to the 7th realm, but he had also grasped the ultimate move of 7 kills as one. This made his strength no longer weaker than Snowflake Sword Emperor and Blue Cloud Sword Emperor. Compared to Snow Sword of Gojoseon, he was only 30 to 40% weaker. The gap was not too big. As for the other 10 swords of Sky Sword Continent, they were all dead. The 8 young beast lords were also on Sky Sword Continent. Among them, 6 had already died. Only the strongest, young Elephant Lord, and the fastest, young Eagle Lord, were still struggling with all their might. It could be said that Sky Sword Continent was many times more miserable than True Spirit Continent. They had few high-level kings, and they didn't have a peerless character like Yi Chun or a heaven-defying group-killing ability like Su Jing. They didn't have any external help either. If nothing unexpected happened, the chances of Sky Sword Continent falling were more than 90%. If we die together. The 9-headed serpent emperor killed an evil king, but he himself was killed by another evil king. However, his death didn't attract any attention. At this moment, everyone was in danger. They couldn't even care about themselves, so how could they pay attention to others? The 9-headed serpent emperor's death was like a gust of wind blowing across a lake, leaving behind a few ripples. Zhan Tianxiang Emperor was much more tenacious than the 9-headed serpent emperor. At this moment, the advantage of a body-refining king was fully displayed. No matter how many evil kings besieged him, he could still hold on. His chi combined with his peak 5th-step spirit body allowed his physical defense to surpass even Su King's. His protective chi power was even stronger than his protective Zhen Yuan. Apart from Zhan Tianxiang Emperor, there was another powerful character on Blood Sky Continent. It was an alluring woman who looked like a demon. Back then, she and Blue Cloud Sword Emperor had investigated the source of the demonic chi. Her true form was a huge yellow python. Her enormous snake body slithered around, and the 3 evil kings besieging her couldn't do anything to her. If Yi Chen were here, he would definitely feel a sense of familiarity. After all, Huang Mei's true form on Gemstone Islands was also a yellow python. From the looks of it, they should be from the same clan. Perhaps Huang Mei was the descendant of this beautiful woman. In Sky Sword Continent's Killing Sword Domain, Evil Spirit Race and Sky Sword Continent's armies were engaged in a bitter battle. Among the crowd, Huang Mei's figure suddenly appeared. Her realm was already at the peak of the 3rd layer of Life and Death Chamber, only a step away from Life and Death Realm. Although she couldn't be considered a continent-level genius, she could still be considered a peak genius. Great-grandmother insisted on choosing Sky Sword Continent. This is great. I'm afraid we'll be completely annihilated. Huang Mei smiled bitterly. She actually wanted to go to True Spirit Continent, but her grandmother had told her that it was too dangerous. The number of demons there was twice that of Evil Spirit Race, and it didn't have the home advantage. On the other hand, Sky Sword Continent had the heavenly sword converging the sword chi of the world, allowing the sword artist to display extraordinary strength. Apart from Huang Mei, there were 2 other acquaintances here, Yu Bingxin and Yu Lingshuang of Silver Moon White Fox clan. Yu Lingshuang had yet to reach Life and Death Realm, and her realm was the same as Huang Mei's at the peak of the 3rd layer. Yu Bingxin was also at the 3rd layer. Auntie, what do you think of True Spirit Continent? Yu Bingxin asked. It should be even more dangerous. Yu Lingshuang guessed. The 2 didn't come to Sky Sword Continent because they felt that True Spirit Continent was dangerous, but because their Silver Moon White Fox clan was here. True Spirit Continent couldn't care less about Sky Sword Continent's miserable situation. Because of the demonic ancestral tree leaf, they had also sunk into bitter battles. In the starry sky, Yi Chun and Troll Emperor had destroyed countless stars. What's going on? How come his spirit, chi, and soul have already climbed to such a level? Troll Emperor was bewildered. The rise of spirit, chi, and soul could allow one to fight more and more valiantly without exhaustion. However, nobody would choose to do so until the very last moment, because it would result in exhaustion, making it unsuitable for a protracted battle. His previous strength was only at the low 7-star level because he had been sealed for countless years. His spirit, chi, and soul had suffered too much damage. Yi Chun, give up. Although you can contend against me with your skills for a while, you'll become more and more exhausted as time passes. The giant devil emperor was testing the other party. You'll know very soon. Yi Chun could feel that his spirit, chi, and soul had already reached a limit. If he continued to climb, he would break through this limit and reach the qualifications to communicate with the Three Flowers' Great Tao. Die! Troll Emperor felt a trace of uneasiness. His demonic power surged, and he punched. This time, Yi Chun didn't reveal his control over his strength. Instead, he met the attack head-on. Bang! Yi Chun's body shook, and he was blasted away. However, this shake allowed Yi Chun to break through the limit of his spirit, chi, and soul. Dense spirit, chi, and soul crazily gushed out from the top of his head and connected with the Three Flowers' Great Tao. In the next moment, 3 illusory flowers appeared above Yi Chun's head. 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 blue. They shone brilliantly. Chapter 1022. Secret Battle Technique. The Troll Emperor's pupils suddenly shrank. He could feel that Yi Chun's essence, chi, and spirit were twice as powerful as before. His terrifying aura was like a cosmic storm, spreading out in all directions. Under the impact of the aura, a group of meteorites nearby exploded into the tiniest specks of dust. Is this the realm of the 3 flowers borrowing the way? The moment the 3 flowers formed, Yi Chun's power skyrocketed. If it was a raging lake before, then it was now a super volcano that could erupt at any time. Apart from that, the powerful power not only did not burden him at all, but it also made him feel like he could do whatever he wanted. Because the 3 flowers borrowing the way borrowed essence, chi, and spirit. Essence was chi and blood. Chi was true essence, and spirit was the soul. With a powerful soul, there was nothing that couldn't be controlled. Moreover, Yi Chun's own soul was enough to handle any sudden increase in power, and there would not be a situation where he could not control his power. Raising his head, Yi Chun looked at the Troll Emperor. Now, we're at the same level in terms of power, but my techniques seem to be several times stronger than yours. Don't try to fool me. It's not like I haven't seen secret battle techniques before. Indeed, when you use the secret battle technique, you will become extremely powerful, but after that, you will also become weak. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. As long as I can hold on for this period of time, the one who will die will be you. The Troll Emperor was shocked at first, but then he laughed. If Yi Chun continued to fight with him, he really would not be able to do anything to him. In terms of power control, Yi Chun had already reached a divine level. Perhaps he could use his rich demonic power to exhaust his opponent to death, but who knew what would happen next? Now that Yi Chun had used the secret battle technique, it was his chance. As long as he could hold on for this period of time, victory would be his. He did not think that Yi Chun, whose combat power had doubled, could do anything to him. It was not like he had never encountered enemies stronger than himself. Previously, Yi Chun's combat power was higher than his, so he could not do anything to him. Oh, it seems like you're very confident. Yi Chun was familiarizing himself with the sudden increase in power, so he was not in a hurry to act. As for the Troll Emperor's reaction, it was within his expectations. The Troll Emperor was probably happy to buy time. Confidence is based on reality, but I'm sorry, you don't have the strength to kill me. The Troll Emperor shook his head. Let's give it a try then. Very soon, Yi Chun had familiarized himself with his new power. His strong cellular will gave him amazing adaptability, even though this was his first time performing the 3 flowers borrowing way. Raising the demon slaughtering sword high up, Yi Chen's body suddenly flashed, and the sword slashed out. The sword gleam spread out in an arc like a semicircle towards the Troll Emperor. The giant Devil Emperor took a deep breath and punched out to meet the sword light. Boom! The shockwave exploded, and the Troll Emperor's huge body was sent flying, crashing into a small star nearby. That star immediately cracked, and a huge crater appeared on it. This sword of Yi Chen's was at the same level as the Troll Emperor's. Logically, it should be a draw, but this sword was not that simple. The power was increasing, and as long as the sword gleam did not shatter at the first moment, it would have to endure an even greater force. The sword force was continuous. Green flames burned, and Yi Chen took a step forward, slashing towards the small star and the Troll Emperor on it. Pucci! The green sword veil extended to an extremely far distance, splitting the small star in half. The Troll Emperor, who was on it, was engulfed by the light produced by the star's explosion. The powerful shockwave split the two sides, and Yi Chen stood 1,000 miles away, his body as stable as Mount Tai. He knew that the Troll Emperor would not die so easily. As expected, in the center of the dazzling explosion, a black dot darted out. It was the Troll Emperor. His body returned to its original size, which was only 5 meters tall. This way, the damage he suffered would be much less. Very good. This sword made me lose 1% of my magic power, but that's it. The Troll Emperor did not care too much. This is just the beginning. The space between Yi Chen's eyebrows suddenly split open, and a silver vertical eye appeared. With a Pucci, a silver beam shot out and bombarded the soul sea of the Troll Emperor. The Troll Emperor's head fell back, and he felt dizzy. Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. After using the 3 flowers borrowing path, Yi Chen's soul power had increased dramatically. Whether it was in quantity or quality, it had doubled, which caused the power of the soul light to increase greatly. Moreover, he could use it many times. This was the reason why Yi Chen was confident that he could kill the Troll Emperor. Otherwise, he would not have been able to kill the Troll Emperor with just his battle power. If he had felt dizzy before, then now, the Troll Emperor was having a splitting headache. As a demon, although the Troll Emperor was not proficient in soul secret techniques, his soul was extremely powerful. Almost no one in the same realm could use soul attacks to injure him, let alone destroy his soul. However, Yi Chen's soul attack had exceeded his expectations. It was actually this powerful. Of course, this was due to the secret technique, but it was also related to Yi Chen himself. How could he know that Yi Chen's soul power was 10 times that of a normal king? The strength of his soul was also unparalleled in Elysium because he had cultivated a Yuan soul secret technique. Yuan soul lock kill. After 4 consecutive soul lights, Yi Chen used the Yuan soul lock kill. An invisible golden halo shot out and entered the Troll Emperor's soul sea like lightning. It then suddenly shrank and wrapped around the Troll Emperor's soul sea. It started to spin and cut as if it wanted to cut the Troll Emperor's soul sea in half. Bastard! The giant Devil Emperor howled in grief. The 4 beams of silver light caused his soul sea to tremble and crack. Then, his soul sea was covered by a sharp golden ring of light. Although this golden ring of light was made of soul power, it was so dense that it was unimaginable. There were even many jagged edges on its edges. I don't have the confidence to use one. Let's use another. Yi Chen steeled his heart and used the Yuan soul lock kill again. 2 golden halos, one above and one below, completely locked the Troll Emperor's soul sea. One was slicing forward, and the other was slicing backward. However, after using Soul Light 4 times and Primordial Spirit Lock twice, he did not have much soul power left. If he continued to use it, it would inevitably affect his body's condition. After all, with his original soul power, he could only use Soul Light 5 times. Even if he doubled it and could use it 10 times, it should be known that 1 Primordial Spirit Lock would consume the same amount of Soul Light twice. The Troll Emperor was bleeding from his 7 orifices. He seemed to have gone crazy. A large amount of soul power was leaking out of his soul sea, and his own demonic power was also starting to leak. This was a sign that his soul sea was about to collapse. Yichun, I won't forgive you. Demon devour heart. The Troll Emperor's voice was full of resentment. This kind of resentment was almost like a curse. If the Troll Emperor hadn't shouted Yi Chen's name, but some other life and death king, he might have been cursed to death. It was hard to imagine how the Troll Emperor's voice could have such a magical power. It was simply unimaginable. Yi Chen's brows slightly creased. An intense change was happening on the Troll Emperor's body. An extremely strange aura spread out. The reason why the Troll Emperor's voice contained a curse was probably related to this strange aura. Pop! All of a sudden, the Troll Emperor's body split open. Looking carefully, one could see that the Troll Emperor's body had become hollow. Inside was a wolf-headed, human-bodied monster. Although the monster's fur was black, it didn't have the slightest bit of luster, giving off an ominous feeling. The demonic flame burned, and the Troll Emperor's body turned into ashes. The wolf-headed monster walked out from within. Its eyes had no pupils, only white. Many thanks. If not for you, I wouldn't have been created. The wolf-headed monster spoke in human language. You were created? Yichen felt it was inconceivable. To be precise, I am the parasitic demon inside the Troll Emperor's body. Since his soul sea was about to collapse and could not be saved, he used a secret art to recover my consciousness. As a parasitic demon, I can naturally absorb the essence of the host's body and turn his power into my own. The wolf-headed monster explained. What a troublesome fellow. Even on his deathbed, he still wants to do something like this. Yichun didn't know what kind of existence a parasitic demon was, but he believed that it wouldn't tell him these secrets. He could feel that this parasitic demon's strength was slightly weaker than the Troll Emperor's, but it was even more bizarre. And now, he only had about 10% of his soul force left. Obviously, he couldn't destroy the other's soul. As if guessing Yichen's thoughts, the wolf-headed monster laughed. I'm not that stupid. Fighting you to the death and occupying Elysium won't do me any good. So don't worry. After this, I will leave Elysium and start a life that belongs to me. The other party's words made Yichun stunned. Are you demons? Haha. Us parasitic demons are both needed and taboo to the devil race. All the parasitic demons are kept in captivity, and they only treat us as tools. If my guess is correct, a wisp of the giant devil emperor's soul origin should be rooted in my soul. One day, when his soul origin is strong enough, he will try to take my body and be reborn. The parasitic demon's aura was very ominous, but its words carried a hint of sadness. Then I wish you luck. Yichun believed the other party, but he didn't let his guard down. He squinted his eyes slightly. The parasitic demon didn't care. It turned around and flew towards the direction of the dead end. I hope that one day we can meet outside. Goodbye. The next moment, the parasitic demon disappeared into the vast space. What strange demons. He stayed where he was for a long time until the parasitic demon completely disappeared. Only then did he sigh. The demon race was different from a human race. There were only humans in the human race, and there was no difference between humans. However, there were many races in the demon race, such as the flower demon, the dark demon, the demonic demon, and this parasitic demon. It was like 100 flowers blooming together.